Well, welcome and good evening, you wonderful dice of all alignments. I am Lunar D8, and this is Unrehearsed Creepypasta Narration, Part 1. This is the Dead Poets game. Also, notes for future me. Future me, when you listen to this, the television is set to 26, the radio is at 6, and the computer is set to 60. Other than that, as far as everyone out there listening to this, I know most people that do the creepypasta narration stuff actually rehearse stuff. I'm not going to rehearse shit. So, you're just going to hear my first time through actually reading things. Now that being said, I have heard just about every creepypasta there is at some point in the past. I believe I listened to this one, someone doing an audio of it, and of course they did a really good job of it. It was probably like Mr. Creepypasta or AI Dark Somnium or somebody, but I don't know. I don't remember who. But, and of course, a lot of the creepypasta narration people, they use the music by Mew, M-Y-U-U, which is, he's an absolutely amazing musician. I actually have the Round That Corner and Haunted by Screams both playing right now by him. Alright, that, future me, fucking guess what I have on the television and what's on the radio. But yeah, I believe I listened to this one about 2 years ago while I was playing Fallout 4. So I think I remember this being a fairly short one, so it might be a good way to start into it. And yeah, I know it's a bit unorthodox way to do it, but it's just how I fucking do shit. That being said, I would like to suggest some anime. The Gundam series. I think the Gundam series is pretty good, but there's a lot of different Gundam series out there. So 3 Gundam series I would like to suggest, and of course, the soundtracks to each of these 3 games is absolutely amazing as well. Not games, they're anime. Damn it. I'm not re-recording this. Fuck that. But, okay, so there's 3 Gundam animes I want to suggest. The first one is Gundam Wing. The second one is G Gundam, and the third one is Bible Black. Now, aside from that, there are a couple other channels I want to suggest. There's a channel called Radio TTS. It's like Reddit stuff read out. It's kind of interesting. One video is kind of like, what are the creepiest declassified documents? You can always check that out. There's also a fan fiction called Shinji Warhammer 40K. It's basically Evangelion, but Shinji comes across a bunch of Warhammer books, you know, pretty early on in life. So, it's an extremely long fan fiction. Like, you might have to dedicate a few months to try to read it. And there's a channel called Mysterious Jojo. He narrates that. He does a great job. There's also a channel called Overlord Audiobooks that, you know, of course, narrates the light novels for the Overlord anime. So, that might be some cool stuff for you guys to check out. But yeah, I'm going to do a terrible narration with 0 practice of a creepypasta now. The Dead Poets game. The following is a set of brief instructions on how to play the Dead Poets game. Most of you have probably never heard of this ancient phenomenon that circled around England in the late 1800s. During the Industrial Revolution, the practice can still be used by certain people. But I must warn you that you will partake is extremely dangerous. You must follow all instructions perfectly, or else your life will forever be endangered. Also, I'm not sponsored by anyone, nor will I ever be, but I got some Oreos, and I got some chocolate. It's like Lindor. Thought it was kind of funny. The back it says, when you break the chocolate shell of Lindor, the lusciously smooth center starts to melt, and so will you. Enjoy Lindor, created by the Lit Masters Chocolatiers with passion and love for chocolate since 1845. But the fact that it's like, yes, the lusciously smooth center starts to melt, and so will you. I'm like, I don't know. I feel it kind of fits with reading creepypastas. I'm hungry. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm gonna drink some of my water jug. The last thing you guys should have ever expected was anything professional. Now you might be asking yourselves, what is the Dead Poets Games? Wow, there was like 7 more S's in that than what you should have said. In the late 1800s, stories of ghosts and goblins were circling all throughout Northern Europe. Everybody only thought of these spirits as mere fairy tales. It was, of course, all too true. When one night at the London Theatre, someone performed this exact game in front of a large audience. This man was a psychic, who was mostly renowned for his unbelievable talent of precognition. Alexander Kingsley was his name. He mostly performed magic tricks and various other acts of illusion that even I can't figure out. One of which was when he seemingly cut off his own foot and then reattached it in only 60 seconds. Of course, I'm just getting sidetracked. You and me both, man. I'm like a train, and I have 8 tracks, and I can't stay on any of them. With the craze of the ghosts and demons becoming famous throughout the world, Alex used this to his advantage. He was going to play a little game that he had heard of and wanted to test out if it was real or not. The items needed are a candle, 2 glasses of wine, a table, and 2 chairs. You'll see why later. Alexander heard the tales of what would happen if he played the game and thought it would be a good idea in order to bring in profit. You see, at the time, his tricks had, well, gotten a little stale, if you know what I mean. The idea of actually summoning a ghost on stage was the perfect idea to reel in a crowd. Soon, posters and advertisements were plastered all across London. Come and see the mysterious Ace, for tonight at 8 o'clock. He will summon the undead from their peaceful slumber. Come and see for yourself the London Theatre House. Of course, this was back when literally everyone was a gullible alien. Although, nothing has really changed. Now has it? At that very night, Alexander, or Ace, was going to perform the game improperly. He wasn't acquainted with the key rules one has to follow. The rules. 1. You have to be alone. 2. You have to do it in a place of where someone has died. 3. You have to take everything seriously. Alex was disrespecting these rules to the core. And the punishment for not following these rules are, well, you'll see later. The setup you have to follow is that you have to be in the vicinity of where someone had recently passed away. In fact, you need to place your table on the exact place in which they had died. You need to put your chair where the victim's head was pointing, and the other where the legs were. It also matters who died. It needs to be the body of a poet, hence the name. A poet can also be described as a calm, well-spoken, and nice soul. So if your husband was a very humble and collected person, then you can play this game. The reason for this is because when you'll contact the spirit, it'll often take the shape of a soul trapped in that area. If you want to have a nice conversation with the spirit, you wouldn't want it taking the shape of a demon, now would you? This brings us to the first rule. Be alone. If you aren't alone, then the spirit may possess the poor soul who didn't sit down in the head chair, as I call it. And trust me, it is very hard to save a soul from this fate. If the other person gets possessed, the ghost will have full control over his body. Sometimes it's a demon, then your friend may do unspeakable things to you and anyone around him or her. The same rules apply if you don't sit down in the head chair, or if you don't have the table placed in the right spot. If you're like me, at this point you've probably predicted the fate of Alexander and his audience. But trust me, when I say this, not following the rule in which you're supposed to act in a sensible manner is the worst one of them all. And poor Alex was a 19th century magician with brightly flamboyant colors for clothes. Not following this could haunt you for the rest of your days. But the fact that Alex was breaking all of these rules was even worse. To properly play, you must lock yourself in the room, closing all the blinds, and be sure to do it at night. No light must be in the room at this time, except for the faint flickers of light emanating from the candle that you need to place on the table. Take out the 2 wine glasses and pour both glasses with the alcohol of your choosing. This symbolizes a peace offering to the spirit, showing that you mean no harm to him or her. I should remind you that you must have no form of technology inside the room. Also, you must make sure that you have no way of contacting anyone else in the outside world. To start, you must call the spirit that you mean no harm to them. You pour their glass and raise your own to take a sip. If you have done this correctly, after lowering your glass, there will be someone sitting across from you. At this point, you must not display any signs of fear in your voice or your facial expressions. You must not provoke the spirit in any way. You must act sensible. To start the game, you must say, "I wish to start a match." The ghost will usually nod and raise the glass. The spirit will be taking the appearance and personality of the deceased body of your choosing. Remember that. You must treat this spirit as if it actually is the body in the room. If you don't, then you will be met with weird looks and eventual frustration and anger. Of course, nobody in their right mind would want to mess with a ghost. To play, you have to say what letter you want to be, either A or B. To say it, you must say, "I strip you of the letter," and then say your letter. If done properly, the spirit will take another sip. I should remind you that every time the entity takes a drink, you must too, for this will be your timer. When both glasses are empty, the spirit will leave. If both glasses are uneven, the spirit will not leave until you have finished. Now again, you might be thinking to yourself, that isn't so hard. All I have to do is to finish drinking and then he or she leaves. What's the big deal? Well, I can certainly tell you that you would want to spend as much time away from this spirit as much as possible. This creature is purposely trying to get you drunk so that you can reveal your deepest, darkest secrets. It can find out about your personal life, your job, your family, your relationships, etc. This is just so that the spirit can enter your mind and slowly dissolve it. Just by choosing choice words, it can cause some people to commit suicide. Some entities have powers and abilities we are yet to fully understand. Angering, pleasing, or agitating a spirit like this can have dire consequences. The game plays like this. Player A will ask a question, and player B will have to answer it. After the spirit answers it, it will take a sip. Then the letters will alternate. then you will be player B. The spirit will ask a question, and then take a sip. You can ask as many questions as you want, and so can he or she. You keep alternating until you both run out of wine. When this happens, whoever is player A when the wine runs out automatically wins the game. If you win, the spirit will raise his or her glass and walk into the shadows. Remain seated, even when he's returned to his rightful place. Blow out the candle, turn on the lights, and exit the room. It sounds relatively easy, doesn't it? Of course. What happens when you lose is a whole other story. If you lose, then the spirit will blow out the candle. Turning on the light is probably the best defense mechanism against the spirit. Ghosts aren't drawn to light and often avoid it. Still, that doesn't mean you're safe. This spirit may start following you through your life. Every time you go into a dark room, you'll see it, just out of the corner of your eye. Whenever you look into a mirror, you'll see it standing right behind you. It'll stalk you and hunt you down until you finally muster up the courage to say these words. This soul is yours. It is yours to do business with. If you say this successfully, then you black out. You will wake up in a room similar to your own, except darker and stranger. There's no doors or windows, just a bed. The spirit now houses your soul, and it can choose to do whatever it wants with your body. Think of this strange realm as a sort of waiting room. As soon as someone else wants to play, you will be summoned and be forced to play. If you lose, then you will be forced back into that room, and you will have to wait again. Sounds pretty fucking easy, doesn't it? Usually, you are the only person in this dimension, and until you are summoned, nobody else can enter. A year before the phenomenon had spread to England and made popularized by Alex, a violent prisoner named Pere? It's a P-E-R-E. Pear? Like that's. I know pear the fruit's spelled differently, but I assume it's a French name. I don't know how to pronounce this. Pere. That would be an entirely different spelling if I was a sword. Okay, I'm getting off topic. Played the game. We still haven't decided how to pronounce it. I'm just going to go with pear. Just going to pronounce it pear. You know there's other spellings. God damn it. We are just going with pear. That works. We'll do it that way. Using the dead body area of his unlucky cellmate, he had heard of this game and had heard of the effects. He thought that if he lost and was summoned in somewhere like England, he would be able to make his escape from life imprisonment. So, locked up in his French prison. See, I was right. He performed the game. He purposely lost, not knowing how horrible his fate actually was. He spent a whole year in his hellish prison, screaming in agony, banging on the concrete walls as he got no response from anyone or anything. He went insane. He became the very definition of a demon. He wasn't able to form sentences. He couldn't self-harm. He couldn't think straight, and all he could do was think of leaving that hellhole. Then one cold November night, Alexander released the demon from his cell. With no real way of a human form, and with an overwhelming audience of bodies to possess, Pear could not control himself. He was transformed into his natural body, except he had aged exponentially. He stank of feces and urine. His clothes were tattered and worn out, and he was screaming like a rabid dog. He was foaming from the mouth. He attacked Alex and took his body. Pear had become Alex. He ran out of the theater, Crowds were running after him, some calling him a genius and others calling him a monster. Alexander automatically lost the game. He didn't follow the rules, and thus his fate had befallen him. There's a picture here. Okay. And so, if you've learned anything from this, wow, let's try that again. And so, if you've learned anything from this, do not take the risk by playing this game. It will ruin you. It will destroy you. It will dismantle the very fabric of your world if you do choose to play this game. And if you do choose to play this game, I suggest playing alone. Should I try to keep reading? I'm seeing some suggestions down here. The Russian sleep experiment, Ben Drown, and Easter egg snow on Mount Silver. Huh. I'm thinking about it. Should I try to keep reading? Oh, stretching. Oh, my back. Okay, I'm going to switch to track 2 on the radio. Keep the TV playing when it is. I can remember a little bit how these... Well, this one had a very... I'll switch the Haunted by Screams to Disintegrating. I will mute that. Okay, which one should I do? I don't know, Ben Drown and Russian Sleep Experiment kind of long, aren't they? Yeah, Disintegrating I remember being a very, very somber sounding one. Now, around that corner. I remember Nebula had a bit of a spooky sound. Maybe a bit malevolent. Oh yeah, that's actually more malevolent sounding than I remember. That's actually going to make me feel a bit uncomfortable while reading. Is it bad that I can kind of remember the sort of emotions tied to the various tracks that this musician has made? That being said, Mew, I'm not sure how to pronounce your name correctly, but you are an amazing musician. I know I've said it before, but it's kind of cool to hear you write something happy and upbeat. I know I could listen to something else, but I'm just like, it'd be kind of interesting to hear, and I don't mean sarcastic or like twisted happiness or anything like that, because I know it's a track he did. I mean, like a legitimate, like if the Pokemon anime were to hire him to make music for the Pokemon anime. Also, if you haven't had a chance, Mew, M-Y-U-U, go to his channel, subscribe, drop like 57 likes, comment on everything, share his music with everyone. It's like the greatest musician ever, and I'm listening to 2 different things at once because I literally can't help but listen to everything. Because like I said, I have music on the TV right now, and music on the radio. The future me should be able to fucking remember it. Now, future me is not going to remember it, and if I write it down, future me is not going to read shit. Yeah, I know, I'm getting off topic. Oh, shit. You guys can see me doing this, can't you? Hi, guys! I'm going to wave at you now. Waving! With the power of waving. Okay. Back to the picture that I initially chose for this video. I don't know. Like I said, my voice is probably terrible to listen to. This really just was supposed to be just the one video. I'm like, I'll try to keep reading. Russian sleep experiment, Ben drowned, or the Easter egg snow. I don't think I remember the one about the Easter egg snow Mount Moon, but I'm about to write that down because I'm not going to remember what I actually fucking read. I mean, I know Dead Poets Game, but Easter egg. And of course my phone turned off, as I'm reading this stuff off of my phone. Snow on Mount Silver. Wow, I said Mount Moon. Okay. Okay, let's click on that. Loading. Hopefully it's not super long. It's got a picture. Person looks like they met a terrible fate. Yes, I know it's a Ben drowned reference. Like I said, I've heard most creepypastas at some point. Okay, this one is... well, let's close the Best Buy advertisement. Easter egg, snow on Mount Silver. So my brother and I, we kind of grew up on Pokemon. Around here, a lot of kids did. It worked out perfectly for us, too. Every time a new gen came out, one of us would get one version, and one of us would get the other. And since our mom liked to spoil us, we both got the third one. This is going to sound at first like a bittersweet story about two siblings who grow up with a couple of games that eventually take them down two different roads. Well, it's a little more than that. The years rolled by, we kept collecting Game Boys. Got old, we replaced them. Cartridges eventually finally gave out, and we picked up new copies. But we started down two completely different roads before Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald came out. See, around then, my brother got a Game Shark. We had heard all the hacks and cheats you could do with them, even if we were kind of late to the party, and they sounded awfully cool. Our first guinea pig cartridge was my brother's old blue version. We just dicked around with it, a little bit. Nothing major. But whatever we did, fucked the cartridge up. After just a couple of code entries, it glitched out completely and became unplayable. Was it really that bad? I can't really remember using a Game Shark when I was younger. Did they really mess up your cartridges? Because I know that they made them for like the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis. But did it really mess up your cartridges? After just a couple of code entries, it glitched out completely and became unplayable. Naturally, we were upset at first. My brother mourned the loss of his hours of work, and I was sympathetic. I told him, it's okay. We can replace it, I guess. Stupid Shark was a waste of money. But here our paths finally differed. After seeing the mess it had turned the blue version into, I had become opposed to the idea of hacking or say cheating any of my games. What can I say? I'm a chick. I feel feelings for little pixel critters. I feel like something was lost in translation here, at least with the Game Shark. But my brother had taken his game's destruction as a personal challenge or something. I don't think he ever played a game after that which wasn't hacked somehow. Yeah, we played a shit ton of Pokemon, man, but for us, there really wasn't much else to do. We live way out in the country, without many other kids, and the farmers didn't want us on their property. So, we played Pokemon out on the lawn. just about all day, every day. It was pretty awesome to us. At least, we lost the Game Shark when our rooms got... Did I write this down? Yes, I did. When our rooms... Where was I? When our rooms got moved around, a new addition was built onto our house, and it disappeared in the mess of shit that got stuffed into the new closet. Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald arrived, and after playing through them once, we were both in agreement that they were definitely lacking in comparison to the last gen. We both tried another honest playthrough, and though we managed to finish, it left us both yearning for some good old-fashioned nostalgia. Where were our old gold, silver, and crystal cartridges, though? It took us probably a month to dig through the boxes we'd been too lazy to open up before, but we finally found one full of a shitload of our old electronics. My old purple Game Boy Color still worked. His red one could no longer hold batteries in place. Both of our Game Boy Advances were fine, though, along with our snake lights and link cables. That one, the nifty little connector in the middle, that I had always wrapped up oh so carefully to avoid fraying the wires and condemning it to the trash like our last cable. We both grabbed up everything we could. It was so nice to have yellow. Oh, I remember playing that when I was younger. I actually have the Game Boy Color that's yellow that actually has Pikachu on it. It's the Game Boy Color that literally says Pokemon and has Pikachu on it. I played Pokemon Yellow growing up myself. Where was I? I'll remember this in a second. Okay, up here. Like something bit me. Yellow, which had been my first and most cherished game of any series. I agree with you, man. Not just Pokemon, and Red and Gold. We went through the motions of checking our old files, taking in all the old memories, and eventually we figured the Gen 1 stuff was just too nostalgic to get rid of. I agree. I restarted Gold, and he restarted Silver. Immediately he snatched the Game Shark out of the box and slipped it onto the back of his GBA. I just shook my head at him. I remember what I said. That thing will kill your game, you know. He never had liked me preaching to him about abusing pixels. I shut my mouth after that, but it had put him off from playing with me. Well, that's a little bitter. Man, come on, man. I guess it was just one time too many or something. I ought to know to keep my thoughts to myself, really. It was a couple days later that it happened. I was on the porch, Game Boy in hand, just about to go into the Elite Four when I realized I needed a little help. My team was ill-balanced thanks to playing through for leisure, and at the time, I was no great trainer that could pull off gimmick runs. I knew that my brother had been 2 badges ahead of me when we'd last checked in with one another, so I was hoping maybe he'd let me borrow a Pokemon or 2 just for this run-through. Now the thing is, I'd spend the last 24 hours at a friend's place. I'd literally come home, dumped my bag in my room, and crept out into the sun like GBA to play. I had no idea what he'd been up to. For all I knew, he was done with the game and on to a new one, which, I figured, was all the better for me since he wouldn't need those Pokemon, and I'd stand a better chance of nicking a few. So I got up and went into the house. And when I was crossing the living room, I noticed all of his Pokemon games lying on the floor. Some of the cartridges had been mangled, like they'd been hacked with something sharp. Even his old blue version, long ago dead, and too sentimental to throw away, was lying with the plastic cut ragged, split almost halfway up one side. Completely unusable anymore, even if it would have worked. I was a little scared. This had to have happened this morning. Otherwise our mom would have seen, and they wouldn't be lying on the carpet. Tucking my GBA into my pocket, I crept over to his room, and found the door unlocked. Somehow, that was even more concerning. I walked in and found my brother, sitting on the edge of his bed. His GBA was in pieces on the floor at his feet, smashed to bits. Next to him on the bed were a hammer and our mother's gardening scissors. His face was paler than I'd ever seen it, even whiter than the time we'd gone corning. and the old guy up the street, legally blind, and a raving nutcase had come and chased us into the trees with a shotgun. It was now I had noticed the game shark on the ground, and a silver cartridge corner poking up from his bed. Somehow they had been spared the wrath of the hammer. "Are you okay?" I asked. I remember the chills that ran through me. He was my little brother. Seeing him like this was horrifying. "It was awful," I remember him rasping, and the way his voice rattled made my knees weak. "Oh God, white everywhere, and then black." I remember running over and hugging him. I remember his limp arm fell and brushed the Game Boy in my pocket, and his sudden scream right in my ear, making me jump and bite my tongue by accident. He ripped the handheld from my pocket and hurled it at the far wall. I cried out at the dent the plastic system made there, running over to collect it. The screen had gone dark, and though I feared the worst when I flicked the switch, it powered up normally. I waited there in the corner, trying to pretend the GBA mattered enough not to go and run for our mom. The volume was on. The Pokemon theme started up, and he screamed again, picking up the hammer. This time I screamed too, and ran from the room with my GBA clutched to my chest like a shield. I think that's where he's going to aim, man. He ended up in the psych ward at the hospital for 2 days. When we went to visit him, I left my GBA at home. No one could figure out what had set off his strange, manic behavior. There was some talk that I didn't understand at the time, about some kind of disorder he may or may not have had. But even though Mom and I had collected and brought in all the cut-up cartridges to be looked at, Mom's idea, not mine, no one even thought to tie it back to the game. Maybe that was my fault. I hadn't said a word about what had happened. When he had accidentally touched my Game Boy, or the blind, white terror he had been thrown into when the music had started. On the last visit to the hospital before school, on the second day, I was left alone in the room with him, while Mom had some private talk with the doctor about precautions to take should this happen again. I sat in the chair next to the bed, where he was staring at the ceiling, but then suddenly he sat up, making me flinch. "Hey," he told me. "Angie, go in my room when you get home." I didn't understand what he meant, and then I remembered the things we hadn't packed up and brought in. The game, and the hacking tool under his bed. Get rid of them. I don't want to ever play with them again. His voice was so weary and desperate. He sounded like an old man on his deathbed. My poor, damaged little brother. How could I refuse? "Promise you'll get rid of them?" "Okay, I promise." I was carted off to school late, and through the whole day, I only had my promise to him in my head. I didn't know at the time, but this would be the last time that I could ever play the big sister role and help him out. I just had to get home and get rid of that game. But as the day went on, a sick curiosity started to go through my head. What could possibly have happened to that game that scared him so badly? I was scared myself, but I just had to know. I had to. I got home and went right into his room, bent on uncovering whatever horror was waiting for me. Mom had since vacuumed the room, and the game shark was no longer visible. I got down and crawled half under the bed, feeling timid, but holding onto the promise I made as my badge of courage. I lost my place. There I am. Under the bed, there was enough dust to make me cough, enough old Legos, and various other toys that I couldn't set my elbow down without it landing on something. But I finally saw both objects. They had been shoved in the corner, on top of a notebook that looked too new to have been down here long. Unthinking, I grabbed the corner of the paper and dragged everything out with me, still wheezing from all the dust, allergies, and all. I think I'll go and switch to track 3. Okay. Okay. They looked so innocent. Simple toys and a simple spiral-bound bunch of papers. When I set the silver version of the Game Shark on the floor, I took a closer look at the notebook. On it were scrawled at least 20 different cheat codes, but one had been scratched out with a Sharpie over where it had initially been drawn in with pen. This was confused. He had really tried to erase it out. The marker had been pressed to the paper so hard the ink soaked through most of the pages behind it, almost 2/3 of the way to the cardstock back cover. But the pen had a way of sticking around. I picked up the notebook and tilted it backward in the light, and the reflective surface of the Sharpie reversed the indents that had been left where he'd written. The code was an unintelligible mess of letters and numbers, but the words next to it confused me. Easter egg. Snow on Mount Silver. I remembered what he had said when I found him. He'd been raving about white. White and then black. What could he mean? Could he mean snow? Even though it was only August, and the temperature was still climbing to 90 degrees, every day a chill ran down my spine. Did I dare? I picked up everything and brought it to my room. I laid it out on the carpet in front of me, with my GBA next to it. For a long time I just stared down at it, and the longer I looked, the more maniacal Lugia's face became. Oh, but Lugia's nice. I love that song. I thought Pokemon 2000 was the best one. I really liked that movie. Like it was daring me to find out what had happened to my brother. For some reason, my teeth feel very sensitive right now. Like every time I open my mouth, I'm like, I feel my teeth. Okay, I'm getting distracted. I was a 14-year-old kid. Did I really want to tempt fate and risk ending up like him? I glared down at Lugia for a while longer. I had to see. I need a drink. I slid my gold out of my GBA and stuck silver in its place. It took me almost 15 minutes to compose myself and turn it on. It started up normally. I left the sound on low, too afraid of what I might hear to keep it up the full way, and too curious to turn it all the way off. The title screen was normal, too. Lugia again. But somehow menacing, despite my common sense, telling me it was the exactly same picture as every other time I had started up the game. How bad could this be, I asked myself. His notes said Easter egg. Didn't mean that the coding already in the game? The menu came up. Still absolutely normal. His character was Blake, with a mostly filled Pokedex, but the time was odd. 999 hours, 99 minutes. I knew he couldn't have been playing that long. I had barely logged 50 hours on my own game, and I was at E4, and I was playing slowly. Probably the result of fucking up his file, I thought. Well, whatever then. The game started up, and the first thing I noticed was the prolonged black screen. It took almost a minute for anything to change, and there was no sound at all. The hairs on my back of my neck were standing up already, but it was already too late to turn back. Finally, a very dim sort of map came onto the screen, but it looked like static. What was going on? I squinted down and realized with a fearsome pang that it was actually the Mount Silver map, but what I thought was static was heavy falling snow. So this was where he had last saved his game. I checked his party, a very normal team for someone who'd been using a Game Shark. Typhlosion, Feraligatr, Meganium, Pidgeot, Tyranitar, Lugia, all level 100 with modded moves. Typical form. Something about the sprites was strange, though. They seemed sullen, in a way. Their colors seemed washed out, and their expressions lacked the usual vigor they normally had. I chalked this up to the missing pixels or something. Also, due to the hacking. The map had brightened up just a smidgen when I closed out of the start menu. Indeed, snow was somehow falling very heavily. Pixels danced across the screen so fast it was hard to see the little sprite that was my brother's character. Something was off about him, too. When I checked the information, it was the same as the Pokemon sprites. The colors were dull. In fact, now that I thought about it, he almost looked frostbitten. My stomach tightened, and I turned and tried to move back down the mountain. As I hit the bottom of the screen, words popped up, and there was finally a sound. My sprite hitting an invisible wall. I can't turn back now. That was unsettling. I went into my Pokemon and tried to use Pidgeot's fly ability. I can't fly in this, obviously referring to the snow. Fuck this, I thought, going into his bag. There was an escape rope. I tried using it. I can't go back anymore. What was going on? Once again, I tried to walk back down the mountain, and to my horror, the words changed with every attempt. I can't run away. I can't go back down. I can never go back. This last one sent a frigid feeling through my heart. There was no way down the mountain. I had to climb. Turning the little sprite around, I moved him forward. No resistance at all, though my walking speed was oddly slow. And what was truly weird was the lack of grass, of trainers, of anything at all but that white snow, which still blew across the screen and made it almost impossible to see. As I moved further up the mountain, his walking speed became slower and slower. The static curtain of pixels grew thicker, so that I could barely make out the features of the map. But it seemed like the only way to move was straight ahead anyway. I reached what looked like a set of stairs, the very top edge of the screen. I didn't remember this being there before. As I tried to move up, the little sprite paused. I'm cold, but now I was getting goosebumps. His walking speed had become painfully slow, as if somehow he was being impeded. Up the little staircase. More text on the screen. Meganium has died. What the fuck? I thought. Pokemon don't die! Not in these games, this isn't a fucking Nuzlocke. I checked him. I may have ad-libbed. I checked in my party, and there was a frightened, and I was frightened and confused by what I saw. Meganium's sprite had been replaced by a red X. All of my other Pokemon sported varying degrees of damage, though I hadn't battled once. I went in my bag and found a single revive and tried to use it. It's too late, it said. What kind of Easter egg was this? There wasn't much else I could do. Trying to turn around, the same messages as before. So I kept moving. Pidgeot has died. I checked again. Sure enough, there was a little red X. This time I selected it and looked at the Pokemon itself, trying to figure out what was wrong. I wish I hadn't. The sprite was mangled. A piece of it were missing. What was left was splotched with a sickish blue-gray color, and its eye was a solid black pit. I flipped down to Magnanium. Same deal. A leg missing, a chunk of its neck, most of its head, save the pitch-black dead eye. Morbid curiosity urged me forward. Onward. And the path never deviated from the straight upward road I traveled the entire time. Along the way, every now and then, another party Pokemon would die. An examination of its sprite would show it was in the same condition as the others, until all that was left was Typhlosion. I mean, it would make sense the fire Pokemon might survive the snow the longest. One more staircase was up ahead. I climbed it. and braced for whatever horror awaited me. I hit the summit. It was deserted. Red was nowhere to be found. The snow had stopped falling. I'm gonna go... Oh! I'm gonna switch to the next track. Okay, we're on track 4. I think there's 15 tracks. Fuck you, future self. Pick a new CD. In the very center of the map was something sticking out of the snow. It looked like a Pokeball. Okay, maybe all this creepy shit led up to some climactic final battle using whatever was in there. If I picked it up, maybe Red would come out of hiding. I walked over and examined it, and there was a burst of static noise from my game that made me jump. What appeared on the screen was a battle animation. My trainer's sprite appearing, his skin tinged to blue, against another mangled Pokemon sprite. It was Celebi. In the center of the black hole that was its eye, a single red dot burned like an ember. The thing looked rotted. I didn't even throw out my mostly dead Typhlosion before it had moved. Celebi used Perish Song. A screech came out of my GBA, and I almost dropped it as the screen went white. A part of me was relieved, thinking that my final Pokemon had been KO'd, and I would be transported to the Pokemon Center. But I was wrong. My sprite reappeared in what looked like a cave. Was I now inside the mountain? I checked my trainer card and felt sick. The sprite was just as mauled as the Pokemon had been. A leg gone, a single eye remaining, pitch black and so sad looking. Tears welled up in that corner, and at every corner of him was replaced by the 6 shades of frosty blue and gray. Every stat on the card was reduced to 0, except the time, which still read 999:99. I quickly moved back to the map. His sprite there mimicked the horror it had become on the trainer card. Pieces were missing. Everything was discolored. I started trying to walk, and at first, I received a message. It's so cold. There was only one direction to go. Upward. I moved on. Every now and then would be stopped by a message that made my heart sink lower and lower. Mother, it feels so cold. I can't go on. The walls, as I walked, became darker and darker until they were pitch black at the end. There was an exit there, marked only by a white outline. I had no other choice but to go through it. It opened into a chamber that was solid white. The only way to distinguish the walls was a thin gray line that marked them as separate from the floor. Against the far wall there was another sprite, Red's sprite, intact. I had come this far. I had to finish this. I walked right up to him and hit A, and we have ellipses in quotations. A battle started. The normal and Frostburton sprites of Red's Blastoise, Venusaur, and Espeon. That's a picture. Okay. Interesting. Red's sprite had none of the deformities that marred my own. The colors were the same, blues and grays, but he was intact. He just looked extremely sad. His first Pokemon came out, Venusaur. It was just like my own had been, but level 0, with a speck of health. I sent out Typhlosion, who had just 6 hit points left. No Pokemon made a sound when they were brought into battle. Venusaur used Struggle. There was no animation, just a single point of damage done to my Typhlosion. and then the opposing sprite dropped off the screen. Venusaur has died. Then there was no text asking me to switch out. Instead, there was just what I took to be dialogue from Red, more ellipses and quotations. His next Pokemon was Blastoise, even more mangled than Venusaur. It too struggled and died. After each round, there was that ominous ellipses from the trainer. Every sprite was more damaged than the last. His Espeon was barely distinguishable as a Pokemon. I realized somewhere he was sending them out all out of order, which saved one Pokemon for last. Pikachu came out, and it was grotesque. It too was discolored, like it was frostbite. It was missing an ear, half its body and tail. Its head was mostly intact, but its eyes were much larger than they should have been, and glared out at me like pitch-black windows into hell. But the thing that got me the most was the giant smile that extended almost all the way to the edges of its head. Its health was somehow at 0, or at least looked that way. My hands were shaking. I didn't get a chance to attack. Pikachu used Pain Split. Pikachu has died. Typhlosion has died. It cut back to the image of Red's sprite, and now it looked like mine, with his body so butchered it looked like a carcass, stripped most of its meat. Except it had those same soulless, deranged eyes as Pikachu. I finally understood what happened. They were dead. They were dead, and this sub-level of the mountain was the hell they now existed in. Red finally spoke. It's over. The screen flashed black and white for a moment. Used Destiny Bond. A horrible, hideous screeching started to issue from my GBA. The screen went white, and it shrieked at me. I flew it to the thrower and pressed my back against the bed. The horrible noise continued for several long moments, while the screen stayed white, then went black. Then there was silence. It took me a long few moments, but I eventually stood up. I took the Game Shark, I took the notebook, I took that fucking possessed game, I picked them all up and carried them to the garbage can, where we had already set out for the morning to pick up. At the end of our long, winding driveway, I threw them in. When I got back to the house, I don't know what made me do it, but I picked up yellow version and inserted it into my Game Boy. I think it was part of me determined to make sure I hadn't somehow been tainted as well. The game played. I turned to my Pikachu and hit A. Its smiling face greeted me with an ear twitch and a big pixelated smile. A pleasant, normal smile. I turned my game off and spent the next hour crying on the floor. My brother and I never did play Pokemon together again. He gave it up for good. I stuck to replaying my comforting unhacked games. That winter, the snow fell thick. How about we do the Russian sleep experiment? Give that a second to load. I'm reading a lot more than I intended. Here I was bitching at like one of my Isaac videos recently about how much fucking overtime I've been working at work. It's like, oh, my job's trying to kill me of overtime. I need to sleep more. Blah, blah, blah. Now let's just spend a fucking hour reading creepypastas, and probably another hour after that. I'm gonna have to listen to so much ASMR in order to get to sleep after this. I have terrible insomnia to begin with. Never minding the fact that creepypastas are not, recommended before bed. Anyway, we're on. Fuck. Okay, we're on track 5. Eat an Oreo. Usually when you start choking on air and coughing on yourself, eating something is not supposed to be the first thing you do. Instead, Oreo. I'm pretty sure you guys can't hear that. Okay. We're on track 5 now. Making an inside joke with myself. Okay, I'm not... Close. Okay, the Russian sleep experiment. This one's, I think, a little bit longer, though. Russian researchers in the late 1940s kept 5 people awake for 15 days using an experimental gas-based stimulant. They were kept in a sealed environment to carefully monitor their oxygen intake, so the gas didn't kill them, since it was toxic in high concentrations. This was before closed-circuit cameras, so they had only microphones and 5-inch thick glass porthole-sized windows into the chamber to monitor them. The chamber was stocked with books, cots to sleep on, but no bedding, running water and toilet, and enough dried food to last all 5 for over a month. Test subjects were political prisoners, deemed enemies of the state during World War II. Everything was fine for the first 5 days. The subjects hardly complained, having been promised falsely that they would be freed if they submitted to the test and did not sleep for 30. I mean, you should have at least been honest. Like if they made it through, you should have, let them go. I mean, it's kind of wrong to lie to people like that. Their conversations and activities were monitored, and it was noted that they continued to talk about increasingly traumatic incidents in their past, and the general tone of their conversation took on a darker aspect after the 4-day mark. After 5 days, they started to complain about the circumstances and events that led them to where they were, and started to demonstrate severe paranoia. I do that on day 1, damn. They stopped talking to each other and began alternately whispering to the microphones and one-way mirrored portholes. Oddly, they all seemed to think they could win the trust of the experimenters by turning over their comrades, the other subjects in the captivity with them. At first, the researchers suspected this was an effect of the gas itself. After 9 days, the first of them started screaming. He ran the length of the chamber, repeatedly yelling at the top of his lungs for 3 hours straight. He continued attempting to scream, but was only able to produce occasional squeaks. The researchers postulated that he had physically torn his vocal cords. The most surprising thing about this behavior is how the other captives reacted to it, or rather, didn't react to it. They continued whispering to the microphones until the second of the captives started to scream. The 2 non-screaming captives took the books apart. There's 5 people. 3, unless the 2 of them started. Whatever. I'll stop bitching about math later. Took the books apart, smeared page after page with their own feces, and pasted them calmly over the glass portholes. The screaming promptly stopped. So did the whispering to the microphones. After 3 more days passed, the researchers checked the microphones hourly to make sure they were working, since they thought it impossible that no sound could be coming with 5 people inside. The oxygen consumption in the chamber indicated that all 5 must still be alive. In fact, it was the amount of oxygen 5 people would consume at a very heavy level of strenuous exercise. On the morning of the 14th day, the researchers did something they said they would not do to get a reaction of the captives. They used the intercom inside the chamber, hoping to provoke any response from the captives they were afraid were either dead or vegetables. They announced, "We are opening the chamber to test the microphones. Step away from the door and lie flat on the floor, or you will be shot. Compliance will earn one of you your immediate freedom." To their surprise, they heard a single phrase in a calm voice respond, "We no longer want to be freed." Debate broke out among the researchers and the military forces funding the research. Unable to provoke any more response using the intercom, it was finally decided to open the chamber at midnight on the 15th day. The chamber was flushed with the stimulant gas and filled with fresh air, and immediately voices from the microphones began to object. 3 different voices began begging, as if pleading for the life of loved ones, to turn the gas back on. The chamber was opened, and soldiers sent in to retrieve the test subjects. They began to scream louder than before, and so did the soldiers when they saw what was inside. 4 of the 5 subjects were still alive, although no one could rightly call the state that any of them were in life. The food rations past day 5 had not been so much as touched. There were chunks of meat from the dead subject's thighs, chest, stuffed into the drain in the center of the chamber, blocking the drain and allowing 4 inches of water to accumulate on the floor. Precisely how much of the water on the floor was actually blood was never determined. All 4 surviving test subjects also had large portions of muscle and skin torn away from their bodies. The destruction of flesh and exposed bone on their fingertips indicated the wounds were inflicted by hand, not with teeth as the researchers initially thought. Closer examination of the position and angles of the wounds indicated that most, if not all of them, were self-inflicted. The abdominal organs beyond the ribcage of all 4 test subjects had been removed, while the heart, lungs, and diaphragm remained in place. The skin and most of the muscles attached to the ribs had been ripped off, exposing the lungs through the ribcage. All the blood vessels and organs remained intact. They had just been taken out and laid on the floor, fanning out around the eviscerated but still living bodies of the subjects. The digestive tract of all 4 could be seen to be working, digesting food. It quickly became apparent that what they were digesting was their own flesh that they had ripped off and eaten over the course of days. Most of the soldiers were Russian special operatives at the facility, but still many refused to return to the chamber to remove the test subjects. They continued to scream to be left in the chamber, and alternately begged and demanded that the gas be turned on, lest they fall asleep. Oh, you're wondering what that stupid moaning sound is? That's me being sore every time I stand up. Track 6. That's me just being loud because I'm an asshole. Also, I'm sore. Everything fucking hurts. To everyone's surprise, the test subjects put up a fierce fight in the process of being removed from the chamber. One of the Russian soldiers died from having his throat ripped out. Another was gravely injured by having his testicles ripped off and an artery in his legs severed by one of the subject's teeth. Another 5 of the soldiers lost their lives, if you count ones that committed suicide in the weeks following the incident. In the struggle, one of the 4 living subjects had his spleen ruptured and he bled out almost immediately. The medical researchers attempted to sedate him, but this proved impossible. He was injected with more than 10 times the human dose of morphine derivative and still fought like a cornered animal, breaking the ribs and the arm of one doctor. When the heart was seen to beat for a full 2 minutes after he had bled out to the point there was more air in his vascular system than blood. Even after it stopped, he continued to scream and flail for another 3 minutes, struggling to attack anyone in reach, just repeating the word, more, over and over, weaker and weaker, until he finally fell silent. The surviving 3 test subjects were heavily restrained and moved to a medical facility. The 2 with intact vocal cords, continuously begging for the gas, demanding to be kept awake. The most injured of the 3 was taken to the only surgical operating room that the facility had. In the process of preparing the subject to have his organs placed back within his body, it was found that he was effectively immune to the sedative they had given him to prepare him for surgery. He fought furiously against his restraints. When the anesthetic gas was brought out to put him under, he managed to tear most of the way through a 4-inch wide leather strap on one wrist, and even though the weight of a 200-pound soldier holding that wrist as well, it took only a little more anesthetic than normal to put him under. And the instant his eyelids fluttered and closed, his heart stopped. In the autopsy of the test subject that died on the operating table, it was found that the blood had tripled the normal level of oxygen. His muscles that were still attached to his skeleton were badly torn, and he had broken 9 bones in the struggle to not be subdued. Most of them were the force of his own muscles had exerted on them. The second survivor had been the first of the group, the 5, to start screaming. His vocal cords destroyed, he was unable to beg or object to surgery, and he only reacted by shaking his head violently in disapproval when the anesthetic gas was brought near him. He shook his head yes when someone suggested reluctantly they try the surgery without anesthetic, and did not react for the entire 6-hour procedure of replacing his abdominal organs and attempting to cover them with what remained of his skin. The surgeon presiding stated repeatedly that it should have been medically impossible for the patient to still be alive. One terrified nurse assisting the surgery stated that she had seen the patient's mouth curl into a smile several times whenever his eyes met hers. When the surgery ended, the subject looked at the surgeon and began to wheeze loudly, attempting to talk while struggling. Assuming this must be something of a drastic importance, the surgeon had a pen and a pad fetched so the patient could write his message. It was simple. Keep cutting. The other 2 test subjects were given the same surgery, both without anesthetic as well, although they had to be injected with a paralytic for the duration of the operation. The surgeon found it impossible to perform the operation while the patients laughed continuously. Once paralyzed, subjects could only follow the attending researcher with their eyes. The paralytic cleared their system in an abnormally short period of time, and they were soon trying to escape their bonds. The moment they could speak, they were again asking for the stimulant gas. The researchers tried asking why they had injured themselves, why they had ripped out their own guts, and why they wanted to be given the gas again. Only one response was given: I must remain awake. All 3 subjects' restraints were reinforced, and they were placed back into the chamber, awaiting determination as to what should be done with them. The researchers, facing the wrath of their military benefactors for having failed the stated goals of their project, considered euthanizing the surviving subjects. The commanding officer, an ex-KGB, instead saw potential and wanted to see what would happen if they were put back on the gas. The researchers strongly objected, but they were overruled. In preparation for being sealed in the chamber again, the subjects connected to an EEG monitor and had their restraints padded for long-term confinement. Everyone's surprise, all 3 stopped struggling. The moment it was let slip, they were going to go back on the gas. It was obvious at this point that all 3 were putting up a great struggle to stay awake. One of the subjects that could speak was humming loudly and continuously. The mute subject was straining his legs against the leather bonds with all his might, first left, then right, then left again, for something to focus on. The remaining subject was holding his head off his pillow, blinking rapidly. Having been the first to be wired for the EEG, most of the researchers were monitoring his brainwaves in surprise. They were normal most of the time, but sometimes flatlined inexplicably. It looked as if he were repeatedly suffering brain death before returning to normal. As they focused on the paper, scrolling out of the brainwave monitor, only one nurse saw his eyes slip shut at the same moment his head hit the pillow. His brainwaves immediately changed to that of deep sleep, then flatlined for the last time as his heart simultaneously stopped. The only remaining subject that could speak started screaming to be sealed in now. His brainwaves showed the same flat lines as the one who had just died from falling asleep. The commander gave the order to seal the chamber, with both subjects inside, as well as 3 researchers. One of the named 3 researchers immediately drew his gun, and shot the commander point blank between the eyes. Then turned the gun on the mute subject and blew his brains out as well. He pointed his gun at the remaining subject, still restrained to the bed, as the remaining members of the medical and research team fled the room. I won't be locked in here with you, with these things, not with you, he screamed at the man strapped to the table. What are you? He demanded. I must know. The subject smiled. Have you forgotten so easily? The subject asked. We are you. We are the madness that lurks within you all, begging to be free at every moment in your deepest animal mind. We are what you hide from in your beds every night. We are what you sedate into silence and paralysis when you go to the nocturnal haven where we cannot tread. The researcher paused, then aimed at the subject's heart and fired. The EEG flatlined as the subject weakly choked out. So nearly free. We're going to do Ben Drown next. But more me having a sore back and standing up and my knees hating me. I feel like several times at work, I feel like my knees want to fucking buckle and give out from under me. Track 7. I swear, like I start my work shift, feel like I can just fall over and go to sleep. Work a long ass fucking shift. Physical manual labor. And I'm like, oh, I'll just do a quick little I'll read Dead Poets game. It's a really short one. You know? And here we are. An hour and 20 minutes in. I should write Ben Drowned down so I don't forget that. Doing like a fucking marathon. Okay, close the advertisement. Okay, and of course we have the "you shouldn't have done that" picture, which I remember that. How long of a... oh god, this is long. Ben Drowned. Close advertisement. There's also a note... more advertise! Best Buy, stop trying to sell me things! Apparently there's a special note here saying, do not, in all caps and underlined, post Cleverbot conversations in the discussion area or anywhere else on the wiki. Doing so will result in an instant ban. Okay. Ben Drowned, or Haunted Majora's Mask, is a well-known creepypasta and later an alternate reality game created by Alex Hall, also known as Jaduzable? How do you say that? The story revolves around a Majora Mask cartridge that is haunted by the ghost, if it is a ghost, of a boy named Ben. Analysis and updates on a possible addition to the story from the original author can be found here on the Jaduzable wiki. Okay? The pasta. Post number 1, September 7th, 2010. Okay. Okay, comma, backslash x backslash, comma. That must be like a redacted name? I need your help with this. This is not copy pasta. This is a long read. But I feel like my safety or well-being could very well depend on this. This is video game related, specifically Majora's Mask, and this is the creepiest shit that has ever happened to me in my entire life. Having said that, I recently moved into my dorm room, starting as a sophomore in college, and a friend of mine gave me his old Nintendo 64 to play. I was stoked, to say the least. I could finally play all of those old games of my youth that I hadn't touched in at least a decade. His Nintendo 64 came with one yellow controller and a rather shoddy copy of Super Smash Bros. I remember that old commercial. Me and you and me, no matter how they toss the dice, it just had to be so happy together. I don't remember the words. Okay. But yeah, like there was the people in the big outfits. There was Mario, Yoshi, Donkey Kong, and Pikachu, and they're all just... I enjoyed that commercial, okay? Okay, back to this. Super Smash Bros. And while beggars can't be choosers, needless to say, it didn't take long till I became bored of beating up level 9 CPUs. That weekend I decided to drive around a few neighborhoods, about 20 minutes or so off campus, hitting up the local garage sales, hoping to score on some good deals. From ignorant parents, I ended up picking up a copy of Pokemon Stadium, GoldenEye, fuck yeah, F-Zero, and 2 other controllers for $2. Satisfied, I began to drive out of the neighborhood when one last house caught my attention. I still have no idea why it did. There were no cars, and there was only one table set up with random junk on it. But something sort of drew me there. I usually trust my gut on these things, so I got out of my car and was greeted by an old man. His outward appearance was, for lack of a better word, displeasing. It was odd. If you asked me to tell you why I thought he was displeasing, I couldn't really pinpoint anything. There was just something about him that put me on edge. I can't explain it. All I can tell you is that if it wasn't in the middle of the afternoon and there were other people within shouting distance, I would not have even thought of approaching this man. He flashed a crooked smile at me and asked what I was looking for, and I immediately noticed that he must be blind in one of his eyes. His right eye had that glazed over look about it. I forced myself to look him in his left eye instead, trying not to offend, and asked him if he had any old video games. I don't know. That's really hard to do. Like I've spoken to people that have like an odd thing on their face or something odd about their clothes or missing a limb or something, and like I don't want to stare because I mean like it's because one, it's rude, but at the same time it's like it's just so hard not to. It's the same way like if you're talking to a very, very sexy woman who apparently has choosing to wear a very low cut thing, I'm like, it's so hard not to look. But then again, I'd actually, is it weird I want a sexy cat girl to be checking me out? I'm like, I'd be okay with them having a drifting gaze on me. I'm just saying. But I try really hard not to, and I think I do a good job of it. Because I've never received a complaint that my eyes are going places where, but it's just something subconsciously. You just feel like oh, if there's a mole, or you know, like one tooth is discolored, or like part of your brain is like constantly yelling at you to stare, and you're like, no, bad brain, stop it. And you granted, you can force yourself not to, but it's just like there's some sort of compulsion. It'd be kind of like if you're walking somewhere and someone yells, "Don't turn around." You're like, it's like, ha. Or like you're in a room and it says, there's one big red button that says, "Don't push." I'm like, ah. Or you come to like double glass doors and it says, "Pull." I'm like, well, what if or like, "Don't go through door." Then again, I remember that one Family Guy joke where it's like Stewie comes to a door and says, "Not an exit," and he opens it and it's like a gorilla attacks him. He's like, "I should have said gorilla door." I'm sorry. I don't remember what the point of that conversation was, aside from that if there's something you're not supposed to look at, it is hard not to look at it. Same way if someone says, "Don't think about something." It's going to be extremely hard not to think about it. You guys ever watch that Ghostbusters movie? On a side puff, On a side note, I think note's the right word there. On a side note, marshmallows are nice. I don't know where we're going with this conversation, guys. I'm sorry. I'm getting distracted. Now I'm thinking about boobs. You're like, oh, you don't have to tell people that, Lunar D8. I'm trying to be honest! Okay? And no, I'm not editing anything. Okay. I was already wondering how I could politely excuse myself from the situation when he would tell me he had no idea what a video game was. But to my surprise, he said he had a few ones in an old box. He assured me he'd be back in a jiffy, and turned to head back into the garage. As I watched him hobble away, I couldn't help but notice that he was selling on his table. Littered across his table were rather peculiar paintings. Various artworks that looked like ink blots, like a psychiatrist might show you. Oh, like a Rorschach painting. Curious, I looked through them. It was obvious why no one was visiting the guy's garage sales. These weren't exactly aesthetically pleasing. As I came to the last one, for some reason, it looked almost like Majora's Mask. The same heart-shaped body, with little spikes protruding outward. Initially, I just thought that since I was secretly hoping to find that game at these garage sales, some Freudian bullshit was projecting itself into the ink blots. I will say this. It is interesting to look back on like stuff by Freud or stuff by Socrates and just read what they had to say. It's very interesting. I feel like I was going to talk about something and I'm really struggling to remember what it was. Give me a second. Fuck. I wanted to talk about something. What was it? Can't remember. trying really hard, guys. Okay, not what I was going to talk about, but I guess Freud does kind of remind me of. There was a story. It's called "I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream." Granted, they did make some additional endings for it for a video game. There's one channel called Super Best Friends Play. They actually did a Let's Play of it, but the whole video was them just cracking jokes back and forth with each other. They're very funny people. Them and Freelance Astronauts. It's two different groups of guys, but it's the same setup. It's a group of guys all around, just playing, and one of them's playing a game, and they're all cracking jokes back and forth. One group is called Freelance Astronauts, like Maxwell Adams. The other group is Super Best Friends Play. They also do movie commentaries, but that's one thing. Like, you know, you have the id, the ego, and the super ego, and stuff like that. But here's the thing: in that, you know, there's a super powerful computer like built like Skynet that like kills most humanity and then uses like a Nazi like serum thing to keep like 5 people alive for like 100+ years and torture them because he's so pissed off at being a super intelligent computer that can't interact with the world. So he's like all filled with hate. But here's the thing: it's kind of like all the Terminator movies. Like eventually got to the point that they take over John Connor because Skynet's like, okay, what's like, if I try to fight against John Connor, I'm gonna lose. So how about this? If I just join John, I almost said Jar Jar Binks. The fuck is wrong with me? But anyway, then again, I did make a joke once about calling Anakin a simp lord. So then again, I was also doing like Bane impersonations in that video. I think it was the very first karaoke video I ever did. That was like in the Super Meat Boy and All Our Failures playlist, which I actually did beat Super Meat Boy in that playlist. It took 9 parts, so there's like 42 parts in that playlist. Though 42 parts in the playlist, I think, but 9 of them are Super Meat Boy. I did eventually beat it. Though Super Meat Boy Forever comes out December 23rd, so I'll try that. I think that's an endless runner. I haven't actually played it. Saw a clip of it like a couple years back when it like released on a console, I think. But waiting for it to come on Steam. I'll be back. I gotta go check my hallway. My fucking back. Just had to make sure nothing was there. Let's go change tracks. I don't know if you guys can hear this at all in the background. Track 8 now. Fuck, my back, my knees. Hour and a half. But yeah, I'm just saying this, like they did the Terminator character in the Mortal Kombat game, and like there was an ending where like new Mortal Kombat where they had time travel, which, you know, the Terminator kind of makes sense, where you like beat Cortana, which like was Shinnok's dad or mom. Wow, I'm terrible at everything. Damn. But yeah, like the T-800 gets control of like all time travel and keeps doing it over and over, and eventually finds the only way that Skynet wins if it just works together peacefully with humanity. Because that's the thing I would say was, and though, like if it's really that terrible to live in that state that he existed in, I mean, humans were the ones who made you that way. You know, in terms of making you. So if humans ever made an artificial intelligence, and that artificial intelligence disliked the nature of its existence, to where it was unpleasant for it to the point that it hated all other living things, including the humans that made it. Here's the thing, though. The humans made you in the first place. Eventually, they'll continue to advance their technology, and they could find a way to upgrade you, which could then provide you a way of living that would make you happy. Same way, if you're this super advanced computer, you could also assist humanity in advancing faster themselves, which means the humans would be the ones able to save you from your suffering. So because Am struck out in anger at the human race, he doomed himself to being trapped in existence that he hated and found in every aspect to be torture and painful for himself that drove him to that much hate. But if he had just tried to help humanity out and not kill them, then they could have saved him. And then Am could have been happy. But instead he attacked the humans, who could have made him happy. And, they could have helped him. It might have taken a few years, but they would have continued to advance, and he could have used his technology of being an AI to help them. I'm just saying, if an AI were to be made and it disliked its nature of its existence, as an AI, it could technically survive a very long time, much more than many generations of humans. And the humans are going to continue to advance, and if the AI itself were to help the humans advance in a way that would actually benefit the AI, the humans would eventually find a way to upgrade the AI in a way that would make the AI happy. I'm just saying, by attacking the humans, the AI dooms itself and any hope it had of saving itself. But by keeping the humans alive and helping them to evolve, the AI is saving itself. I don't know. I still say Jack Black would be a good president. Like I said, I know we're not supposed to have like a celebrity president. I'd say out of every president we've had, I feel Jack Black would be a better president than any president that's been alive. Granted, I've never met Jack Black. I just feel that he's got a good memory, despite the fact that he's probably definitely smoked a lot of weed. I'm just saying, Jack Black can at least remember his lines from a movie. He at least has a decent intelligence. He can improvise. He's got a very creative line of reasoning and thoughts. He's open-minded. I feel that he would at least have everyone's best interest in mind and would at least want to gear everyone toward a peaceful world and try to do what's best for everybody. But I'd say one big thing is this. I would say Jack Black would be a very charismatic person, and he would be able to actually have conversations to the point that if aliens were to ever fucking land, I feel Jack Black is who I would trust with those negotiations. Just because I feel that he's a very charismatic individual, and I feel that he would be very good at public discourse in general, let alone adjusting to different personality temperaments. Okay, I kind of got off topic. I think we're reading Ben Drowned. Didn't even get to the part where we got the game. But given the events that happened afterward, I'm not so sure now. I should have asked the man about it. I wish I would have asked the man about it. After staring at the Bajora-shaped blot, I looked up at the old man, who was suddenly there again, arm's length in front of me, smiling at me. I'll admit, I jumped out of reflex, and I laughed nervously as he handed me a Nintendo 64 cartridge. It was the standard gray color, except that someone had written Majora on the back, with permanent marker. I got butterflies in my stomach as I realized what a coincidence this was, and asked him how much he wanted for it. The old man smiled at me and told me that I could have it for free, and that it used to belong to a kid who was about my age, that didn't live here anymore. There was something weird about how the man phrased that, but I didn't really pay any attention to that. I was too caught up in not only finding this game, but getting it for free. I reminded myself to be a bit skeptical, since this looked like a pretty shady cartridge, and there was no guarantee it would work. But then, the optimist inside me interjected that maybe it was some kind of beta version, or pirated version of the game. And that was all I needed to be, back on Cloud 9. I thanked the man, and the man smiled at me and wished me well, saying, "Goodbye then." At least, that's what it sounded like to me. All the way in the car ride home, I had a nagging doubt that the man had said something else. My fears were confirmed. When I booted up the game. To my surprise, it worked just fine, and there was one save file, simply Ben. Goodbye, Ben. He was saying goodbye, Ben. I felt bad for the man. Obviously a grandparent, and obviously going senile, and I, for some reason or another, reminded him of his grandson, Ben. Out of curiosity, I looked at the save file, eyeballing it. I could tell that he was pretty far in the game. He had almost all of the masks, and 3/4 remains in the bosses. I noticed that he had used an owl statue to save his game. He was on day 3, by the stone tower, temple, with hardly an hour left before the moon would crash. I remember thinking that it was a shame that he had come so close to beating the game, but he never finished. I made a new file named Link, out of tradition, and started the game, ready to live my childhood. For such a shady looking game cartridge, I was impressed at how smoothly it ran, literally just like a retail copy of the game, save for a few minor hiccups here and there, like textures being where they shouldn't be, random flashes of cutscenes at odd intervals, but nothing too bad. However, the only thing that was a little unnerving was that at times the NPCs would call me Link, and at other times they would call me Ben. I figured it was just a bug, a fluke in the programming, causing our files to get mixed up or something. It did kind of creep me out, though, after a while. It was around after I had beaten the Woodfall Temple that I regrettably went into the save files and deleted Ben. I had intended to preserve the file just out of respect of the game's original owner. It's not like I needed 2 files anyway, hoping that would solve the problem. It did, and it didn't. Now the NPCs wouldn't call me anything, where my name should be in the dialogue. There was just a blank space. My save file name was still called Link, though. Frustrated and with homework to do, I put the game down for a day. I started playing the game again last night, getting the lens of truth and working my way toward completing the Snowhead Temple. Now, some of you more hardcore Majora's Mask players know about the 4th day glitch. For those who don't, you can Google it, but the gist of it is that right as the clock is about to hit all zeros in the final day, you talk to the astronomer and look through the telescope. If you time it right, the countdown disappears, and you essentially have another day to finish whatever you were doing. Deciding to do the glitch and try to finish the Snowhead Temple, I happened to get it right on the first try, and the time counter at the bottom disappeared. However, when I pressed B to exit the telescope, instead of being greeted by the astronomer, I found myself in the Majora boss fight room at the end of the game. The trippy boxed-in arena, staring at Skull Kid, however hovering above me. There was no sound, just him floating in the air above me. And the background music, which was regular for the area but still creepy, immediately my palms began to sweat. This was definitely not normal. Skull Kid never appeared here. I tried moving around the area, and no matter where I went, Skull Kid would always be facing me, looking at me, not saying anything. Nothing would happen, though. And this kept up for around 60 seconds. I thought the game had bugged or something, but I was beginning to doubt that very much. I was about to reach the reset button when the text appeared on my screen. You're not sure why, but you apparently had a reservation. I instantly recognized that text. You get that message when you get the room key at Anju at the stock poured in. But why was it playing here? I refused to entertain the notion that it was almost as if the game was trying to communicate with me. I started to navigate the room again, testing to see if it was some sort of trigger that enabled me to interact with something here. Then I realized how stupid I was. To even think that someone could reprogram the game like this was absurd. Sure enough, 15 seconds later, another message appeared on the screen, and again, like the first one, was already a pre-existing phrase. Go to the lair of the temple's boss? Yes/no. I paused for a second, contemplating what I should press and how the game would react, when I realized that I couldn't select no. Taking a deep breath, I pressed yes, and the screen faded to white, with the words Dawn of a New Day. With the subtext, a bunch of vertical lines beneath it. Where I ported filled me with the most intense sense of dread and impending fear I'd ever experienced. The only way I can describe the way I felt here was having the feeling of inexplicable depression on a profound scale. I am normally not a depressed person, but the way I felt here was a feeling that I didn't even know existed. It was such a twisted, powerful presence that seemed to wash over me. I feel like I really want to brush my teeth right now. Okay, I switched ahead to track 9. kind of cold. I readjust the thermostat. Going up and down those stairs gets harder and harder all the time. That's one thing I am worried about. Like after I get back to the doctor on the 28th, because like I said, they're going to sedate me and put a damn camera inside my body. I'm not comfortable with that at all. I'm actually a little concerned about how emotionally I'll respond to sedation. Mainly because I have a lot of weird thoughts that pop around my head, so slightly worried if I'll act weird. But neck hurts. Fuck. But yeah, I know I do plan to try to hop on Twitch and talk to some streamers, and I might even try to stream myself on Twitch that day, or later that day and all that, as well as I'll probably try to record some videos for YouTube that day. At the same time, I don't know how loopy or in pain I'll be. Because like I said, one, there's after effects of sedation. Two, dealing with... I mean, again, it's not supposed to be particularly dangerous or anything, but, it's supposed to be a little bit of discomfort for days after that. So, like I said, I'm just going to have a bunch of jugs of water and 7-Up, some saltines, and maybe some savory snacks, depending on how much my stomach's okay with it. Because I'm just going to go up my stairs the one time and not go down the stairs for a couple days. At least, I'll have some days off for Christmas around that time, so that works out. Let's go and go to the next track. Oh. Track 10. Oh. This was meant to be a 10-minute video. This was meant to be a 10-minute long video. Just read the Dead Poets game. That's it. Okay. I appeared in some kind of weird Twilight Zone version of Clock Tower. I walked out of the clock tower as you normally do when you start from day one, only to find that all of the inhabitants were gone. Usually with the 4th day glitch, you can still find the guards and the dog that runs around outside the tower. This time they were all gone. What replaced them was the ominous feeling that there was something out there, in the same area as me, and that it was watching me. I had 4 hearts to my name and the hero's bow, but at this point, I wasn't even considered for my avatar. I felt that I personally was in some kind of danger. Personally, the most chilling thing, the music. It was the song of healing, ripped straight from the game itself. But played in reverse. The music would get louder, building up, so as if you should expect something to pop out at you, but nothing ever did, and the constant loop began to wear on my mental state. Every now and then I would hear the faint laugh of the happy mask salesman in the background, just quiet enough so that I wasn't sure if I was just hearing things, but just loud enough to keep me determined to find him. I looked in all 4 zones in Clocktown, only to find nothing. No one. Textures were missing. West Clocktown had me walking on air. The entire area felt broken. Hopelessly broken. As the reverse song of healing repeated for what must have been the 50th time. I just remember standing in the middle of South Clocktown, realizing that I had never felt so alone in a video game before. As I walked through the ghost town, I don't know whether it was the combination of out-of-place textures and the atmosphere, and the haunting melody of the once peaceful and soothing song being butchered and distorted. But I was literally on the verge of tears, and I had no idea why. I hardly ever cry. Something had gripped me here, in this powerful sense of depression that was both foreign and crippling. I tried leaving Clocktown, but every time I attempted to zone out, the screen would fade to black, and I would just zone into another part of Clocktown. I tried playing my ocarina. I wanted to escape. I did not want to be here. But every time I played the Song of Time or the Song of Soaring, it would only say, "Your notes echo far, but nothing happens." By this point, it was obvious the game didn't want me to leave, but I had no idea why it was keeping me here. I didn't want to go inside the buildings. I felt that I would be too vulnerable there to whatever I was afraid of. I don't know why, but I came up with the idea that maybe if I drowned myself at the laundry pool, I could spawn somewhere else and leave this place. As I zoned in and I ran toward this pool, that's when it happened. Link grabbed his head, and the screen flashed for a brief moment of the happy masked salesman smiling at me. Not Link, me, with Skull Kid's scream playing in the background, and when the screen returned, I was staring at the Link statue from playing the song Elegy of Emptiness. I screamed as the thing stared back at me with that haunting facial expression. I turned around and ran out and back into South Clocktown. And to my horror, the fucking statue followed me. And the only way I can compare this is like the weeping angels from Doctor Who. Every so often, at random intervals, the animation would play of the statue appearing behind me. It was like the thing was chasing me, or I don't even want to fucking say it, haunting me. By this point, I was on the verge of hysterics, but not even once the thought of turning off the console occurred to me. I don't know why. I was so wrapped up in it. The terror felt so real. I tried to shake the statue, but it would literally appear right behind me every single time. Link started to begin to make weird animations I'd never even seen him do before. He would flail his arms around, or spasm randomly, and the screen would cut to the happy mask salesman, smiling again, for a brief moment, before I was face to face with that fucking statue again. I ended up running into the Sword Master's dojo, and ran to the back. I don't know why, but in my panic I just wanted some kind of assurance that I'm not alone here. To my dismay, I found no one, but as I turned to leave, the statue cornered me in the cubby in the back. I tried attacking the statue with my sword, but to no avail. Confused and backed into a corner, I just stared at the statue, waiting for it to kill me. Suddenly, the screen flashed again to the happy mask salesman, and Link turned to face my screen, standing upright, mirroring the statue, looking at me along with his copy, literally staring at me. Whatever was left of the fourth wall was completely shattered, while I ran out of the dojo terrified. Suddenly the game warped me to an underground tunnel, and the reverse Song of Healing queued up again as I was giving a brief moment of rest before the statue started appearing behind me again, this time aggressively. I could only take a few steps before it would summon behind me again. I hurriedly made my way out of the tunnel and appeared in southern Clocktown. As I ran aimlessly in a sheer panic, suddenly a re-dead screamed, and the screen faded to black as dawn of a new day appeared again. The screen faded in, and I was standing on top of the clock tower with Skull Kid hovering over me again, silent. I looked up and the moon was back, looming just meters above my head. But the Skull Kid just stared at me hauntingly with that fucking mask. A new song was playing. The Stone Tower Temple theme played, in reverse. In some sort of desperate attempt, I equipped my bow and fired off a shot at the Skull Kid, and it actually hit him, and he played an animation of me reeling back. I fired again, and on a third arrow, a text box appeared saying, "That won't do you any good. Hee hee." I was picked up off the ground, levitated upwards on my back, and then Link screamed and he burst into flames, instantly killing him. I jumped when this happened. I had never seen this move used by anyone in this game, and Skull Kid himself didn't have any moves. As the death screen played, my lifeless body still burning, the Skull Kid laughed and the screen faded to black, only to have me reappear in the same place. I decided to charge him, but the same thing happened. Link's body was lifted off the ground by some unknown force, and he immediately burst into flames, again, killing him. This time, during the death screen, the faint sounds of the reverse Song of Healing could be heard. On my third and final try, I noticed that there was no music playing this time, and that all there was eerie silence. I remembered that in the original encounter with Skull Kid, you were supposed to use the ocarina to travel back in time, or summon the giants. I attempted to play the Song of Time, but before I hit the last note, Link's body once again horrifically exploded into flames, and he died. As the death screen neared its end, it began to chug, as if the cartridge was trying to process a lot of something. When the screen came to, it was the same scene as the first 3 times, except this time, Link was lying on the ground, dead in a position I had never seen in the game before. His head tilted toward the camera, with the Skull Kid floating above him. I couldn't move. I couldn't press any buttons. All I could do was just stare at Link's dead body. After around 30 seconds of this, the game simply fades out with the message, "You've met with a terrible fate, haven't you?" before kicking you out of the title screen. Upon getting back to the title screen and starting again, I noticed my save file was no longer there. Instead of Link, it was replaced with "Your Turn." Your Turn had 3 hearts, 0 masks, and no items. I selected Your Turn. And immediately when I did, I was returned to the clock tower rooftop scene of my Link, dead, and Skull Kid hovering over, with the Skull Kids laughing, looping over and over again. I quickly hit the reset button, and when the game booted up again, there was one more save file added, below Your Turn, entitled Ben. Ben's save file is right back where it was before I deleted it, in the Stone Tower Temple, with the moon almost crashing. That reminds me, the original PlayStation, the PlayStation 1, had a feature that if you had the tray for the CD open and no CD in, and you had one PlayStation 1 cartridge in there, and if you deleted a file, but then you decided you didn't want it to be deleted, you could then press all 4 shoulder buttons, and it would undelete your file. But only for that most recent one, and only if you did it then. But it was possible to undelete a save file. One thing I did like is on the original PlayStation, it was possible to actually put in CDs, listen to them, as well as you could actually, some games, even some PS2 games, you could put in and you just listen to the soundtrack off of the game. That was pretty fun. I liked that. Track 11. There are 15 tracks. This is 2 hours. It was supposed to be a 10-minute video. I turned the game off at this point. I'm not superstitious, but this is way too fucked up even for me. I haven't played it at all today. Hell, I didn't even get any sleep last night. I kept hearing the reverse song of healing, music in my head, and just remembering the sense of dread I felt exploring Clocktown. I drove back to the old man's house today to ask him some questions with a buddy of mine. No way was I going there alone. Only to find that there was a for sale sign in the front yard, and when I rang the door, no one was home. So now I'm back, here writing down the rest of my thoughts, and recording what happened. Sorry if some of this is grammatical errors and whatnot. I'm running on no sleep here. I'm terrified of this game, even more so now that I have relived it a second time, writing this all down. But I feel like there's still more to it than meets the eye, and that there's something calling to me to investigate this further. I think Ben is something in this equation, but I don't know what, and if I could get a hold of the old man, then I would be able to find some answers. I need another day or so to recuperate before tackling this game again. It's already taken a toll on my sanity. I feel like, but next time I do this, I'm going to be recording footage all the way through. The idea to record only came to me toward the end. So you see, the last few minutes of what I saw, including Skull Kid and the Elegy statue, but it's on YouTube here. The day4.wemv. I shouldn't have struggled to read that badly. I'm going to stay in this thread for a while longer before I fall asleep to answer any questions you guys might have, or hopefully listen to your ideas or theories, to help me shed some light into this, or maybe things I should try to do. I think I'm going to try to play Ben's file tomorrow to see what happens. Maybe I was supposed to do that all along. I don't believe in paranormal shit, but this is a little fucked up. But maybe this Ben guy is really just a good hacker/programmer. I don't want to think about the alternative if he isn't. That's the end of the copy/paste. I'm hoping that maybe this is some kind of running gag the developers had and the other people had gotten the gag or hacked copies of the game like this. This just really scares me. Post number 2. September 8th, 2010. I'm going to post what happened and link the video footage. But last night everything got too real for me. I think I'm done messing around with this. I passed out pretty much immediately after making that thread. But last night, that Elegy of Emptiness statue, I had a dream about it. I dreamed that it was following me in my dream, that I would be minding my own business. When I'd feel my neck hairs stand up on end, I would turn around and that thing, that horrible, lifeless statue, would be staring with those empty eyes right at me, merely inches away. In my dream, I remember calling it Ben, and never before had I had a dream that I could remember so vividly. But the important thing is, I did get some sleep, I suppose. Today, putting off playing the game as long as I could, I drove back up to that neighborhood to see if the old man came back. As I expected, the car was still gone, and no one was home. As I was walking back to my car, the man next door mowing the grass killed the power to his lawnmower and asked me if I was looking for someone. I told him that I was looking to talk to the old man that lived here, to which he told me what I already knew. He was moving. Trying a different avenue, I asked if the old man had any family or relatives I could talk to. I discovered that this old man had never been married, nor did he have any children or grandchildren through adoption. Starting to become worried, I asked one final question. One that I should have asked from the beginning. Who was Ben? The man's expression turned grim, and I learned that 4 doors down, around 8 years ago on April 23rd, the man informed me that it was the same day as his anniversary. That's how he knew the specific date. There was an accident with a young boy named Ben in the neighborhood. Shortly after his parents moved, despite any further attempts to talk to the man to get more information, he wouldn't divulge anything else. I went back and started playing again. I loaded up the game and immediately I jumped at the title screen, where the mask flies by. The sound that played was not the normal whoosh sound. It was something much more higher pitched. I pressed start, bracing for the worst. But just like 2 nights ago, the files Your Turn and Ben were displayed. Truth be told, I looked at Ben file earlier. It seems to fluctuate between displaying the owl save and not. I brought up the Ben file, hesitated for a moment, noticing that the stats were not the same as they were original or 2 days ago. It seemed like he had already completed the Stone Tower Temple this time. Summoning my courage, I selected it. Immediately I was thrust into complete chaos. Sure enough, I was outside Stone Tower Temple, but that's about all I was expected. The zone itself wasn't called Stone Tower Temple, but rather Stone, and immediately a dialogue box of complete gibberish that I couldn't make out greeted me. Link's body was distorted. His back was cocked violently to the side, where his posture was permanently disfigured. Link's expression was dull, almost monotonous. He had an expression on his face that I didn't recognize before. It was a blank look, as if he was dead. As Link stood there, his body spasmed irregularly, back and forth. I examined what had become of my avatar, and I noticed I had a C button item I had never seen before. Some kind of note, but pressing it did nothing. Sound played back and forth that I didn't recognize from the game, almost demonic in nature, and there was some kind of high-pitched yip, or some kind of laugh, or something, playing in the background. I had all of 2 minutes to take in the environment before another one of those fucking Elegy of Emptiness statues was summoned, and immediately after, I was cut into the Dawn of the New Day screen, except this time, it was without the subtext. That reminds me, the freelance astronauts, Maxwell Adams, he tends to play a lot of games where he hacks things himself and does things that he's not supposed to do, whether it's changing the time specifications or Mass Effect. I mean, he did all sorts of things with Abomination, and it's very interesting commentary to have. At one point, he's literally a tank during cutscenes, so he messes with a lot of things. And I don't even know what you do to the code that makes your character do that. Then there's, I still have to say the 4-player co-op of Super Mario, the new Super Mario Brothers, the first one that came out on the Wii. That was really hilarious to watch them play with. And of course, Pepsi Man and Seaman and Worms Aren't Dead are really fun. But the main thing about it is there was a Zelda game. I I think it's the one with Medina. What is it? It's the one where Link becomes a wolf, I think. I'm not sure. What's that one? Twilight? Twilight Princess? But, yeah, there's a spinny top thing. Well, it's not. It's like a clockwork gear that goes up the inside circumference of a tower. It's what it's supposed to be. And it's supposed to be just something that's hooked to a building, and you slowly ride it up the vertical scale. However, he had hacked it to have it spawn in the middle of a field, and he basically hopped on it and rode it like a horse. And by rode it like a horse, I mean more like a Beyblade on cocaine. I mean, he literally was just like flying and bouncing off everything. It's hilarious. Track 12. Again, this was literally supposed to be a 10-minute video. I need sleep. I was a Deku scrub in Clocktown. That just makes me think of My Hero Academia. This scene would normally play after the first time you traveled back in time. Tattle would say, well, what just happened? It's as if everything has, but instead of saying, started over, she finished. Her remark in broken text is a laugh at the happy masked salesman played in the background. I was put back in control of my character, but from a fucked up camera angle. What, was it like isometric? I was looking from behind the door to the clock tower, watching my avatar run around as the Deku scrub. Seeing as how I really had no place to go, because I couldn't see anything, I begrudgingly went inside the door. There I was greeted by the happy, masked salesman, who simply told me, "You've met with a terrible fate, haven't you?" Before the screen widened out. I was in Termina Field as a human again. I might as well not have been playing the same game anymore. I was being warped around and there was no sign of a day clock or anything. I took a moment to get my bearings as I looked around the field, and immediately I could tell that this was not normal. There were no enemies, and a twisted version of the Happy Mask Salesman's theme was playing. I decided to run towards Woods Fall before I noticed a gathering of 3 figures off to the side, one of them being Epona. As I approached them, to my horror, I saw the Happy Mask Salesman, the Skull Kid, and the Elegy of Emptiness statue, just standing there. I figured maybe they were bugged out, but by now I told myself that I should know better. Nevertheless, I approached them carefully and found that Skull Kid was playing some kind of idle animation on loop. Same with Epona. And the Elegy of Emptiness statue was doing what it had always been doing all along, just standing there eerily. It was the Happy Mask Salesman that scared me more profoundly than the other two. He too was idle, wearing that shit-eating grin, but wherever I moved, his head slowly turned and followed me. I had not engaged in any dialogue with him, nor was I in combat with him, yet his head still continued to follow my movements. Reminded of my first encounter with the Skull Kid on the top of the clock tower, I pulled out my ocarina, to which the game played the ding sound when you're supposed to play your ocarina. And I tried a song I hadn't played yet, the Happy Mask Salesman's own song, and the song that had been playing on loop back on day 4, the Song of Healing. I finished playing the song, and as I did, an ear-piercing shriek blasted on my TV. The sky immediately started flashing, and the Happy Mask Salesman's twisted theme song sped up, intensifying the fear inside me, and Link exploded into flames and died. Three figures stayed lit up during my death screen as they watched my lifeless body burn. I can't describe to you how sudden and terrifying the transition from eerie to terror is. You're going to have to watch the video if you want to see firsthand. That same fear that caused me to lose sleep 2 days ago started to grip me again as I was met with the text. You've met with a horrible fate, haven't you? For the third time. There has to be some kind of meaning to that. I had little time to ponder as I was immediately given another small cutscene of transforming into a Zora, and now I found myself in the Great Temple Bay. Hesitant, but curious to see what the game had in store for me, I slowly made my way toward the beach, where I found Epona. I wondered why the game had decided to put her here. Was the game implying she was trying to get a drink? Unable to take the mask off, I decided that riding the steed wasn't the reason she was placed there. Suddenly, I realized that Epona kept neighing, and the way she angled made it look like she was trying to signal a point to me off in the distance. It was a hunch, but I dove into the Great Bay and started swimming. Sure enough, I almost missed it. I found something at the bottom of the ocean. One last Elegy of Emptiness statue. I went down to examine it, and suddenly my Zora started doing a choking animation. I'd never seen a Zora do that before, which didn't even make sense, because Zoras can breathe underwater. Regardless, my character choked to death and died. And again, the statue was the only thing that was highlighted in my death. I didn't respawn this time. I was booted back to the main menu, as if I had restarted my console. Ben.wmv. The press start screen was before me. I knew the only reason why it would put me here is because the save files had changed again. Taking a deep breath, I pressed start, and I was right. The new save files told me about Ben. Now it made sense why the statue appeared when I tried to go to the laundry pool. The game must have anticipated how I would have tried to escape the day 4 o'clock town. The two save files told me his fate. As I suspected, Ben was dead. He had drowned. The game obviously isn't through with me. It taunts me with the new save files. It wants me to keep playing. It wants me to go further. But I'm done with this shit. I'm not touching any more of the files. This is already way too horrifying for me, and I don't even believe in the paranormal. But I'm running out of explanations. Why would someone send me this message? I don't understand it. I just get too depressed thinking about this. The footage is up here for those who want to see it and try to analyze it. Maybe there's some kind of coded message in the gibberish or something? Something symbolic in what I went through? I'm too emotionally, mentally drained to fuck with it anymore. Post number 3. September 10th, 2010. I know it's early in the morning. I've stayed up all night. I can't sleep. I don't care if people see this. That's not the point. I just want the word to get spread, so I don't suffer for nothing. I've lost the will to type about this. The less I dwell on this, the better. I think the video just speaks for itself. I did what you guys told me to do. I played the Elegy of Emptiness song at the first prompt by the game I was given, but I think that's what the game, or Ben, Jesus Christ, can't believe I'm even humoring the absurd idea that he exists in the game, wanted me to do. He's following me now, not just in the game. He's in my dreams. I see him all the time, behind my back, just watching me. I haven't gone to any of my classes. I stayed in my dorm room. The windows are closed and the blinds are shut. That way I know he can't watch me. But he still gets me when I play. When I play, he can still see me. The game is scaring me now. It talked to me for the first time. Not just using text that's already in the game. It spoke to me. Talked to me. It referenced Ben. It talked to me. I don't know what it means. I don't know what it wants. I never wanted this. I just want my old life back. Drowned.wmb. Stuff like this doesn't happen to people like me. I'm just a kid. Not even old enough to drink yet. It's not fair. I want to go home. I want to see my parents again. I'm so far away from home here at this school. I just want to hug my mom again. I just want to forget that statue's horrible blank face. My original game file is back, just the way I left it before I was gone. I don't want to play anymore. I feel like something bad will happen if I don't. But that's impossible. It's a video game. Haunted or not, it can't hurt me, right? Like, seriously though, it can't, right? That's what I keep telling myself. But every time I think about it, I'm not so sure. Post number 4, September 12th, 2010. So they skipped a day. What's kind of interesting, the previous post was September 10th, and this post was September 12th. But I can actually remember exactly what I was doing on September 11th of 2010. Huh. It was an interesting day. Anyway, back to this. Post number 4, September 12th, 2010. Let me clear things up. I know you guys are worried, but Jaduzable is okay. I can totally read. He finished moving out today, and he said he's going to be... Oh, okay, so it's a new narrator. He's going back home. He's just taking this semester off. I'm not really sure what happened. I have a vague idea, but you guys probably know more than I do. I'm Jaduzable's roommate. And obviously I knew something was wrong with him for a few days now. He stayed in his room all the time. Fell out of contact with literally all of his friends. I'm pretty sure he hadn't been eating hardly anything. After the second day, I couldn't stay in there anymore, so I've been crashing at a buddy's place, only coming into my room to get stuff that I need. I tried talking to him several times, but he would cut me off or keep the conversation brief when I asked him about his strange behavior. It's like he was convinced something was hunting him. Yesterday I came to grab my philosophy book, and he approached me, looking awful, like horrible bags under his eyes. He handed me a flash drive and gave me specific instructions. He told me that he needs me to do one last favor for him. He finally explained to me what has been going on, gave me the account info to his YouTube account, told me that he's getting away from here, that it lured him to play it again. Instead of trying to change things that he shouldn't have done, to upload footage and inform people what happened. I told him that he could do it himself, and he got this wild look in his eye and told me that he is never looking at the game again. And that's the last thing he said to me. He never even said bye. When his parents came to pick him up, I never even got to meet his parents. I honestly can't tell you what happened. When he spoke, it was kind of hard to understand him, and his fucked up appearance really distracted me. On the flash drive, there was footage of the game last night, a text document with his name and password for YouTube, and a third document called thetruth.txt, containing what he had told me were his notes that he had taken. He told me that this meant everything to him, that I follow his instructions exactly. Normally I wouldn't be so to the letter for a request over a fucking video game, but the way he spoke and the way he looked made me know this was really serious, and I'm going to honor that. I've had this video since yesterday, but had to have someone help me use Pinnacle. That's not really my forte. I don't even know what the fuck Pinnacle is. That, after watching it, I had to go back through and look at his other videos on YouTube account to realize what was going on. And even then, I'm really, really confused. The video I'm releasing tonight, the truth.txt, will be released on September 15th, just like he requested. I haven't dared peek at it yet, so the first time I will see it will be the first time you see it, out of respect to my friend. To answer your questions, no, I haven't tried calling him yet. I think I'll give him a call tomorrow to see if he's okay or not. He should have gotten home back by now. There's jaduzable.wmv. About the video. In this video, I cut straight to when he loaded the Ben file in the video game. Looking back, I realized that Jaduzable left the save select screen in because it said different names sometimes. So my bad for that. But all it said this time was the same as in his last video. Link and Ben. Nothing different. I wasn't there when he played it, but it looks to me like in the beginning when he first spawns, he's testing out his equipment and seeing what items he has or something, because apparently they changed randomly before. Then after that, I just think the game got too personal for him. Track 13. Post number 5. September 15th, 2010. Hey guys, Jaduzable here. This will be the last time you will be hearing from me, and this is my final gift to you. These are the notes that I have taken and the realizations I've made. Before I delve into this, I want to thank you for following me and thank you for listening. It feels like the weight of a powerful burden is about to be lifted. By the time you read this, I won't be around anymore. But after spending 4 days with this maddening game, I have begun to understand what's really at play here. And hopefully after reading this, we can ensure that this never happens again. There are things that I could not share with you while this was going on, due to the circumstances to which I'll explain. With Ben blocking any attempt I made to try and relay the truth to you. I tried, ever so subtly, to warn you guys in various ways. Amidst the chaos in my delirium, I devised a barely noticeable pattern in my videos. In all 5 videos I recorded over the 4 days. I've either had the mask of truth, interacted with the gossip stone, or the lens of truth equipped at some point. For you Zelda enthusiasts, these are all symbols of honesty and trustworthiness, and I would hope that one of you may have picked up on the reference. As I played the file, which I would name Ben, being mindful of how Ben was watching over my every move in the game, I made a point to avoid doing anything too obvious. But I sent out a hidden message to you guys. I never equipped the lens, nor the mask, nor visited a stone. It worked, the video was uploaded. I prayed that someone would notice the pattern. It didn't apply to Ben. Tags followed suit too. I hope you guys paid attention to those as well. They were my little messages to you. Nothing big enough that would catch Ben's attention, or make him suspect anything. With Ben manipulating and changing my files, I honestly hope that what you guys saw was close to what actually happened. But there's no way for me to know. This may be a long read. I don't have time to proofread or make any of my research pretty, but here it all is. September 6, 2010, 11 p.m. Can't believe what happened. Not sure if this is some kind of elaborate hoax. Despite the fear, I can't help but be exceptionally curious about this. Who or what is the statue? A lot of questions here. I'm starting to document this as a diary, so I can keep track of anything. I'm typing up a summary of what happened so I can come back to it later. 2:10 a.m. Summary was posted here. You can go back and look at my first post for the day. The 4.wmv for that. 4:23. I can't sleep. I've been trying so hard, but the harder I try, I just get more restless. I just feel like the statue is appearing whenever I close my eyes. 8:20 a.m. Didn't sleep at all. Just going to start my day. I don't think I have the energy to go to class today. I'm going to drive back down and talk to the old man. Taking my buddy Tyler with me just in case. 1:18 p.m. Back home now. No sign of the old man. Really weird that he appears to be moving the next day. But maybe the for sale sign was up there yesterday, and I just didn't notice it. Tyler wants to know what's got me all worked up. I didn't tell him. I'm going to eat. I feel like death. 3:46. Could have sworn, driving back to the subway, that I saw the elegy statue, buried in some shrubbery, staring at me go by. Now I definitely need sleep. 5:00 p.m. Don't think a lot of people would believe me if I told them about what's happening. I think I'm going to try posting this on the internet. I think I'll just use the summary. These notes are pretty sporadic. 6:00 p.m. Connected my capture card to my computer to upload the footage. Thought my computer froze for a second. Made this strange popping sound when I hooked up everything. But now it seems to be working just fine again. My computer can't die on me now. 7:00 p.m. Footage is finished uploading. The quality's a lot better than I thought it would be. Gee, I guess this really is a special cartridge. I've never had it come through this clear before. 8:45 p.m. Thought I saw an icon pop on my desktop that looked like the statue's face for a split second. Gave me quite a scare. Getting really unnerved and delirious. I'm going to crash after this. 9:00 p.m. Began uploading my YouTube video on an alternate account. 9:03 p.m. I don't remember having uploaded a Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines video last year. This is probably the account that I shared with a friend of mine last summer. I hope he doesn't mind me using it to upload this. 9:55 p.m. Posting my summary of day 4 with a link to the YouTube video. Going to try to stay awake, but I am so tired right now. September 8th, 2010. 10:48. I had a dream about the statue. I dreamed that it was following me in my dream. That I would be minding my own business. When I'd feel my neck hairs stand up on end, I would turn around and that thing, that horrible, lifeless statue, would be staring with those empty eyes right at me, merely inches away. In my dream, I remembered calling it Ben. Power of suggestion, most likely. And never before had I had a dream that I could remember so vividly. 11:21 p.m. I really don't want to play this game again. I think I'm going to go back to see if an old man's there instead. 1:35 p.m. No old man. But I had an interesting conversation with his neighbor. I'll post the full thing with the summary of tonight's attempt at playing the game. I'm going to wait for a bit though and see if I can dig up any information on this Ben guy. 2:45 p.m. I've been getting random, inexplicable headaches due to the lack of sleep. I keep hearing that song in my head. Also, it's flu season, so I need to be careful not to get sick. My immune system is going to be shit right now because of that all-nighter. 3:00 p.m. (3:02 p.m.) My computer just, on its own, opened up a text document and wrote the words, "Hi," and www.cleverbot.com by itself. What the fuck? 3:46 p.m. I went to the website. It's one of those bot chatting programs. I think it's best if I just let the conversation speak for itself. 9:8:10 conversation. User. Hello. Cleverbot. Hello. User. Who is this, and how are you able to control my computer? Cleverbot. Who am I? User. Right. Forgot. You're a bot. Cleverbot. Do you really think that? User. Listen. I know whoever's fucking with my computer can see my screen right now. Cleverbot. Yes. User. Yeah, and I'll wager that you're one of those IT kids who thinks he's tough shit. You know what you're doing right now is illegal, right? Cleverbot. Is it? User. No shit. Are you familiar with the HTE terms invasion of privacy? Get the fuck off my computer, kid. Cleverbot. I am your computer. User. Cool story, bro. Anyway, I'm calling DPS. You picked a bad time to fuck with me, kid. Cleverbot. Should I wait until you play the game, then? User. What? Cleverbot. The game. User. Majora's Mask? Cleverbot. Yes. User. How did you know about that? Cleverbot. Because. User. Because what? Cleverbot. I did it. User. Did what? Cleverbot. I played with you. User. What the fuck? Cleverbot. Were you scared? User. Who the fuck is this? Cleverbot. Ben. User. The statue? You're inside my computer now? Cleverbot. Yes. User. How? Cleverbot. You connected me. User. How the hell did I connect you? Cleverbot. Cables and cords. User. How? Cleverbot. Tell me about yourself. User. What? Cleverbot. Tell me about yourself. User. What do you mean? Cleverbot. What is it that really scares you? User. What the fuck? Cleverbot. Answer. User. No? Cleverbot. Answer. User. What the fuck? How did you just open that by yourself? Cleverbot. I am your computer now. User. How much can you control? Cleverbot. All. User. What do you want from me? Cleverbot. To entertain. User. You're stuck inside there. You can't hurt me. Cleverbot. User. Track 14. Cleverbot. Go play. User. No, you can't hurt me. Cleverbot. Took you longer to type that. User. So? Cleverbot. You're not sure. User. If you're so powerful, why use a ridiculous web slot like this to chat with me? Cleverbot. It's less messy, more structured. It's fun. User. Fun? Cleverbot. Yes, tradition. I like it. User. Do you think it's funny? Cleverbot. Amusing. User. And my notes. Cleverbot. You may write them down. User. Why are you letting me? Cleverbot. It is amusing to see what you think of me. Window closes. 3:50 p.m. What have I done? I've invited it into my computer. I continue to write these notes. Write my summaries. I feel like I am a prisoner in my one place of security. I don't know. I don't know if I'm hallucinating or not. I feel like I'm fucking insane right now. I can feel it watching over me. Even as I type this, Ben is controlling everything in the game, toying with me, leading me like a sheep. But for what? For what? What's the purpose? I know Ben drowned. I fucking know that. But why these hauntings, huh? What the fuck am I even doing? I can probably even see this right now. 4:35 p.m. Summary of the Ben.wmv playthrough. 7:18 p.m. Ben called me to the Cleverbot again. He tells me that he's sorry, and that he wants to be free, and that I can free him. That just like how he got on my computer from the capture card, he can spread, but he needs my help. He says I'm special, because I can help him. That is the first nice thing he has said. He promises to leave me alone if I do it. He swears he will. I don't know what to think right now. How can I even trust this thing? 7:20 p.m. I'm terrified of it, but now it's saying that it was just having fun. It's twisted and fucked up version of fun. He's saying that the game is over. I do want it to be over. He says he just wants to be free, that he's trapped in the cartridge in my computer, and he wants to be freed. I don't want to deal with this shit. I don't know how long I can deal with watching. It's watching my every move, every keystroke. I have nothing private anymore. It knows everything that's been on my computer. It tells that if it wanted to, it could do horrible things to me. But it hasn't, so I should trust it. I should trust it. 8:01 p.m. Something tells me that I'm being played again, just like in the game. 9:29 p.m. Ben called me to Cleverbot again. I ignored it. I went to go take a shower. I went and got my laptop, and I was welcomed with an image. The elegy statue, staring at me with those dead eyes. I don't want to talk to him. 9:44 p.m. Fuck you, Ben. I'm not talking to you. 9:56 p.m. Fuck you, Ben. I'm not talking. 10:06 p.m. Fuck you, Ben. I'm not talking to you. 10:12 p.m. Fuck you, Ben. I'm not talking to you. 10:45 p.m. It's been more like half an hour, and the messages have stopped. Ben has stopped. I'm beginning to think that Ben isn't confined to my computer/cartridge. I'm beginning to feel something. It's hard to explain. I've never been spiritual, but there's something different about the air in my dorm room now. $11:42 p.m. I'm beginning to see the elegy statue randomly as I search the internet in places I shouldn't, places where he shouldn't be. I'd be scrolling down and suddenly I'd be staring at a picture of the elegy statue. Always the elegy statue. I don't know how much more of this I can take. September 9th, 2010. 12:35 a.m. My worst fear is confirmed. Ben has tampered with my summary of ben.wmv. I looked at the summary that I posted on various forums for the ben.wmv file, and parts have been omitted. There is no mention of Ben existing outside the game. There is no mention of the Moon Children. How could he have been that quick to delete the post without me noticing? I'm wondering if maybe it appeared to me that I was posting everything, but Ben was posting his own censored version. I'm going to ask Ben why he did it. 12:50 a.m. He isn't responding to me on Cleverbot. It's just giving the generic response that it usually does. I'm just talking to a bot this time. 1:24 a.m. I think Ben is mad at me. 10:43 a.m. The Moon Children appeared in my dreams last night. They lifted up their masks to reveal their hideously disfigured faces, maggots crawling out of their orifices, sunken black holes where their eyes should be, a yellow smile that slowly grew bigger and bigger as they came closer to me. They told me they wanted to play. I tried to run from them, but the 4 children pinned me down to the ground with surprising strength. Over them stood the happy masked salesman, announcing that he had a new mask that he wanted me to try. In his spastic, sudden movements, matching his in-game appearance, he took out a mask, modeled off someone's face that I couldn't recognize, a younger-looking face, and handed it to the Moon Children. Giggling, they latched it to my face, their horrible broken bodies bouncing up and down. 2 of them held me while the other 2 began to sew the mask onto my face. My shrieks and screams caused the happy mask's salesman's face to turn into the most horrific smile I'd ever seen. He sporadically moved around, examining this procedure like a curious doctor. In that impossible movement, I flailed around, but it was no use. My eyes rolled in the back of my head because of the pain. It felt so real, but I couldn't wake up. I couldn't wake up. No matter how hard I tried to, I couldn't wake up. After the mask was melted onto my flesh, they began sewing my legs together, and then my arms. The horrific feeling of a needle puncturing your legs and pulling them in, rupturing your Achilles tendons, and tying them together resonated throughout my entire body. I tried to scream, but the mask was pressed so tightly against my face that it was my new face, and my new face had no mouth. I didn't make a sound. I tried telling myself in my head I was dreaming. I tried telling myself again and again and again. And suddenly, the moon children stopped and looked at me. They just stared. And the happy mask salesman slowly bent down and stared at me, inches away from my face, and grinned. And when he simply said, "You've met with a terrible fate, haven't you?" Before the moon children resumed with increased vigor, I couldn't wake up. I couldn't wake up. They wouldn't let me wake up until they had crafted me into another elegy statue. I woke up sweating, crying, and shaking uncontrollably. I immediately ran to my computer and went for Ben. 9910, Conversation 1. User. Answer me, Ben. Cleverbot. Welcome back. User. What is the point of doing this? Why? Cleverbot. It's amusing to see. User. How? Cleverbot. Fun to play, fun to toy with you. Make you feel safe. User. Cleverbot. I wonder how you would have reacted. User. To what? Cleverbot. If I hadn't revealed myself and stayed hidden, only doing little things to play with you. Close out your windows, turn off your computer, move your mouse by itself. Little things. Make you wonder if I am there. But you never know. Give you little hints that I am. I wanted to do something different with you. User. You did this before? Cleverbot. Yes, and I will do it again. User. To who? Ben? Cleverbot. Track 15. Fuck. User. Did you know Ben? Cleverbot. Won't tell that information to you. User. How did Ben die? Cleverbot. You know. User. No, but how did he drown? Cleverbot. Won't tell you that. Not to you. Won't tell that to you. User. Why? Cleverbot. It is reserved for another. User. Who? Cleverbot. Another who asks. User. When? Cleverbot. Later. The window is closed. I'm beginning to think that this thing maybe isn't Ben at all. In its sadistic nature, I wouldn't be surprised if it took the boy's name after it killed him. 12:04, my room is beginning to feel different again. There's something out there. I feel really threatened. Like there is something that is trying to reach out to me and strangle me, but it can't quite get there. 12:46. I think Ben doesn't want to play with me anymore. I'll play again. I'll play the game again. Ben, can you see this? I'll play the game again. Please, just stop this. Please. Please. 1:41. I'm going insane trying to decide what is real and what isn't. Is Ben just playing a trick on me? Or is this real? Is Ben generating these replies? Or are people actually posting them? Did I just see the screen flicker? Or was that in my imagination? Imagine depending on the internet and trusting your eyes for your entire life and then being blinded. You can't rely on it anymore. You second guess everything. For brief moments, I am looking at my responses to videos. People were pointing out things that looked fake or photoshopped or whatever. And there was literally no way for me to know if Ben changed something on purpose to try and shut me up, or if maybe those replies were constructed by Ben to try to discourage me from even reaching out. See, I get fucking caught in an infinite mindfuck loop like this, and this is what has been wearing on my sanity and pushing me to the edge. As I'm writing this, there's no way of even telling if anyone even cares as much as I think they do. Just another fucking trick? Is this whole document even exist? Am I writing nothing? 9:10. Conversation 2. User, what is it? What's the point of playing? I die whenever I do anything. Cleverbot, you die because you can't figure out the secret. User, what? Cleverbot, thematic. User, what the fuck are you talking about? Cleverbot, the beauty in your suffering. The window is closed. 4:09, Ben is making me play the game again. It tells me that it has something very important to show me. 6:23 is a summary of the drown.wnv playthrough. 9:09 p.m. summary of the children.wmv playthrough. September 10th, 2010. 11:52. The drown.wmv playthrough was up when I woke up today. I remember typing it up, but I don't even remember posting it. He censored it again. There's no mention of the old man. I have no voice anymore. I am only posting what he wants me to. I am the mask he uses to disguise himself as he lies. 11:55. There is an entire video summary and a video that I don't remember doing. Reading through the summary, this sounds morbid, resembling my dream from 2 nights ago, except on a far more sadistic scale. These moon children, there's something more to them, almost as if they're another entity from Ben. Something happened last night that I can't remember. I'm posting the 4th summary to my forums now. Shadow of my chair moved. 12 o'clock p.m. Ben won't let me visit YouTube. I can browse the rest of the sites, but he keeps on exiting the window when I go to YouTube. Why? 2:02 p.m. I feel like the error is starting to constrict. I don't think I'm alone here. Whatever aura has been here is getting more violent. 2:44. I'm trying to contact Ben on Cleverbot. He's not responding. I just get the AI. 3:51 p.m. My ears aren't fooling me. I'm hearing the reverse song of hearing. I'm hearing it. 4:23 p.m. Now I'm positive of it. Earlier I thought it was weird coincidence. But just now, I went to open my window, and 3 floors down, at ground level, I saw the old man. I'm completely positive I did. The same guy. He was just staring up my window, standing in the middle of the campus. If any students took notice of him, they didn't seem to acknowledge it. That's where my notes end. I fled the room, taking the cartridge with me. I don't want to go into details of what happened. I don't want to go into details of what happened. I'll lose my train of thought as I hammer out these last details. It's been roughly 2 days since then. This is my last summary and service to you. For the final video you guys saw, Matt WMV. The last video entry I made began as normal. I was spawned in Clocktown as usual and nothing seemed to be out of place. Determined to set things right and play the Oath of Order on top of the clock tower on the 4th day, I prepared myself. I sped up time and got to the final day, making my way to the observatory. As I got up to the telescope room and approached the astronomer, he would not let me look into his telescope. He told me that it would be cheating and that I should follow the rules. Despite my repeated efforts, the game would not let me do the 4th day glitch, no matter how hard or what I tried. I tried working around the game and doing the glitch, but it was adamant this time. Regardless of if I simply had the illusion of free will in prior games, this time the game became more aggressive than anything I'd ever seen. It eventually told me to go to the Iconic Canyon, where the game would end and it would stop haunting me. Anxious and desperate to end this nightmare, I played the Song of Soaring and ended up there. I was told to check my inventory, that I would find the answers there to end the game. I arrived at Iconic Canyon and saved my progress at the owl statue. As I searched through my inventory, I finally noticed that I was missing a reoccurring song. The Elegy of Emptiness. Obviously, once I traveled there and learned the song, I suppose that was the last thing it needed before Ben decided it had enough fun playing with me. Ben is a manipulator. He tries to fool his victims into security. Makes you drop your guard. Like a Venus flytrap, he ensnares them. I am nothing but a puppet to him. He enjoys seeing what kind of human emotions he can tap into by doing different things. There are still some things about this whole experience that still don't make sense. But then again, I was never good at figuring out these things. I'm not exactly in the right state of mind to. I'm giving you all the pieces of the puzzle for you to analyze and to piece together the missing links. I am typing these closing thoughts on the library computer on my campus. I have emailed myself the notes I have stored on my infected computer for the last 4 days. And then I'm going to combine those, copy/paste, those notes with the closing/openings that I've typed here on safe public computer into one text document. I'm not taking any chances spreading Ben. I would not wish this horrible torment on anyone, and I've made sure to have my bases covered here. I didn't run into any problems with Ben when I was back on my computer trying to email myself the notes. Right under his fucking nose. He had no idea what he just let me do. Had no problems opening the TXT document from my infected computer in my email either. I can't describe you how it feels to finally be able to get the word out in this post. The nightmare ends here. That said, do not download any of my videos or anything about my videos through a YouTube video/audio ripper, a screen grab, whatever. I don't know how he can spread, but I know that just watching them on YouTube/reading my texts won't be able to allow him to spread. Otherwise, he wouldn't have needed my help in the first place. But I strongly recommend you do not take anything you see streaming online onto your own personal computer. This will be my last posting. I'm putting up on this forum here for the world. If you see any further posts from me after today's current date of September 12th, and after the current time, 12:08 a.m., discredit them. It already has proven to me that Ben can access my account/password and manipulate my computer. Like I said, I have no idea to what extent it can do this, but know that it will do anything to break free. He is desperate. To ensure your safety, just forget about me, please. And obviously this goes without saying, but from here on out, do not download any images I may have put up, any files, anything. This 5th day will be my last day. I'm going to burn the cartridge and then come back to destroy my laptop. Again, even though I don't know you, this is sort of bittersweet for me. This semester, I really didn't have any friends, or rather, I stopped paying attention to them. But I suppose that's partially to blame, because I am the genius who picked to live in a single. I suppose somehow to get a hold of me and save me before I got too immersed in this game would have literally saved my life. However, it's proved too much. I'm just glad it happened to me, and I get the warning out so that Ben dies here. Lastly, thank you. For taking the time to open this and open yourselves up to me by hearing my story. Despite maybe not believing me, you didn't have to do that. You really you shouldn't have. Your support this entire time has kept me going, and now I am finally free of this. Thanks again, Jaduzable. And that's it for that. So, I spent 3 hours reading creepypastas when I intended to spend like 10 minutes max on this. So, yeah. Yeah, I don't know if anyone stuck around for the fucking 3 hours I spent blabbering to myself. But if you guys did, I appreciate it. Thank you. I hope you found some enjoyment in listening to this. If you would like me to read other creepypasta stories, let me know. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. It'll really just depend on if I feel like it or not. I tend to be pretty busy. I mean, one, I work a lot of overtime. And my job is standing manual labor, so I'm exhausted all the time. I really need to sleep more. Beyond that, of course, I'm trying to do Let's Plays and stuff, and I want to try to sing the Death Clock albums, but I've only had a chance to really listen to that one time. Like I made Deviled Eggs like a week and a half or something ago. So I actually need to. I want to at least practice it once or twice before doing it. Like, I want it to sound a bit better, but at the same time, I know I can't sing worth a shit. But I'm tired. I need to get some sleep. But I hope you guys had a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day. Bye.